4,000 meters above the restless sea, the high Andean plateau slumbers beneath a blanket of pale, freezing mist. Here, at the roof of the world, spring arrives not with a rush of green, but with a subtle softening of glacial ice. A gentle mountain wind sweeps down from towering stone peaks, whispering softly through the stiff, golden strands of ichu grass. In this vast, silent expanse, life begins anew. The first pale fingers of dawn stretch across the sky, painting the snow-capped summits in shades of rose and amber. Down in the sheltered hollow of the basin, the chill air stirs with a profound quiet, broken only by the distant, soothing murmur of a glacial stream winding its way through the valley floor. Against this sweeping backdrop, a tiny new existence unfolds. Resting upon the frost-kissed earth lies a newborn cria, no larger than a lamb, delivered into the thin, crisp air of the plateau. Its lungs, finely tuned by millennia of evolutionary adaptation to function efficiently in low-oxygen environments, expand to take their very first breath. The high-altitude atmosphere is unforgivingly thin, yet rich with the clean, sharp scent of damp earth and melting snow. As the pale sun inches higher, casting long, gentle shadows across the rocky terrain, the newborn's coat, a thick fleece designed to ward off the biting nocturnal cold, begins to dry under the faint, warming rays. Around the quiet birth site, the wind carries a low, rhythmic vibration through the valley, the soft, comforting hum of the broader herd grazing peacefully a short distance away, honoring the ancient rhythm of the plateau. Beside the damp, slumbering earth, the mother alpaca lowers her long, graceful neck. Her dark, almond-shaped eyes soften as she looks upon her fragile offspring. Without hesitation, she begins to murmur, a low, rhythmic, vibrating hum that resonates deep within her chest. This gentle vocalization is the first language of the high-altitude plains, a soothing sound designed to reassure the newborn that it is safe within the vast, open expanse of the world. Slowly, deliberately, she draws closer. With delicate sweeps of her warm, velvety muzzle, she initiates the vital process of postpartum grooming. Every sweep of her tongue clears the clinging remnants of birth, stimulating the newborn's circulation and accelerating the drying of its damp fleece. This intimate tactile contact does far more than clean. It ignites a powerful olfactory recognition. Camelids do not use communal nurseries. Instead, mother and cria rely entirely on precise scent and sound bonding to navigate the herd later on. Inhaling deeply, the mother breathes in the unique chemical signature of her young, etching its scent into her memory forever. The newborn responds instinctively to the rhythmic ministrations, shifting its tiny head toward the familiar, grounding warmth of its mother's body. As she licks and nuzzles every inch of the trembling fleece, she ingests the amniotic fluids, an evolutionary survival mechanism that effectively conceals the birth site from keen-eyed upland scavengers like the Andean fox. The air around them fills with the quiet, grounding cadence of her breath mixing with the rustling ichu grass, sealing a bond forged in the quiet stillness of the frozen dawn. A short distance away, across the frost-silvered plateau, the rest of the family herd grazes in slow, deliberate harmony. These camelids, expertly adapted to the thin, oxygen-poor air of 4,000 meters, move with a quiet, measured grace. Their thick, insulating fleeces catch the pale morning light, glowing amber against the backdrop of towering Andean peaks. While they continue to pull at the tough, resilient blades of ichu grass, their vigilance remains unbroken. Long, expressive ears swivel independently, tuning into the gentle mountain wind and the distant, soothing music of a melting glacial stream. This collective presence offers a profound sense of security. In the vast open expanses of the Altiplano, survival depends on community awareness. Yet, there is no panic. no restless shifting. The elders of the herd recognize the delicate nature of the new arrival. They maintain a respectful, calming perimeter, their quiet presence broadcasting an atmosphere of absolute safety. Occasionally, a nearby female pauses her feeding, turning her long neck toward the birth site. She lets out a soft, low-frequency hum, a communal acknowledgement of life renewed. This shared vocalization ripples gently across the plateau, blending with the high-altitude birdsong welcoming the dawn. Encircled by this tranquil defense, the mother and her newborn rest undisturbed. The herd's undisturbed rhythm acts as an anchor, steadying the mountain morning and allowing the tiny, trembling cria to gather its vital strength within a sanctuary of collective calm. As the first rays of the sun crest the jagged Andean peaks, a profound transformation sweeps across the vast Altiplano. For hours, the high-altitude air has held the bitter chill of the night, freezing the dew upon the rugged earth at 4,000 meters. But now, golden light spills down the mountain slopes, melting the frost-silvered tips of the tough ichu grass in a slow, luminous wave. This transition brings a vital gift to the landscape, radiant solar warmth. The rising sun touches the resting mother and her newborn cria, casting a long, gentle shadow across the plateau. This sudden influx of thermal energy is an evolutionary lifeline. At this extreme elevation, thin air offers little insulation, and a newborn camelid lacks the mature fat reserves needed to easily regulate its internal temperature. As the sun's rays soak into the damp, newly born fleece, water molecules begin to evaporate, drying the thick fibers and transforming the sodden coat into a dense, efficient thermal barrier. The mother shifts closer, aligning her broad body to act as a natural windbreak against the gentle mountain breeze, maximizing the solar heat captured by her cria's warming coat. Every ray of morning light stimulates circulation beneath the fragile skin, easing the involuntary shivers that helped jumpstart the newborn's metabolism minutes after birth. The cold, crisp air begins to soften, imbued with the earthy scent of warming soil and sweet-scented mountain shrubs waking to the day. Bathed in this amber glow, the tiny cria stirs against its mother's warm flank, feeling the steady, restorative pulse of life as the high plateau fully awakens to the spring. Within the tiny chest of the newborn, a complex biological symphony unfolds to meet the demands of the high-altitude environment. At 4,000 meters, the barometric pressure is low, meaning each breath of thin mountain air delivers fewer oxygen molecules than it would at sea level. To compensate for this atmospheric challenge, the cria's circulatory system relies on a high concentration of red blood cells, a hereditary trait forged by generations of Andean survival. Its heart beats with a steady, rapid rhythm, pumping oxygen-rich blood swiftly through slender limbs and delicate tissues, ensuring every vital organ receives the fuel it needs to function. Sensory processing begins to awaken as well. Large, dark eyes blink slowly against the sudden, brilliant glare of the Andean sun reflected off the rocky soil. The pupils contract, adjusting from the dim sanctuary of birth to the vast, luminous expanse of the Altiplano. Around the tiny head, mobile ears twitch instinctively, capturing the subtle acoustic landscape of the plateau. The soft rustling of the ichu grass brushing against the earth, the distant murmur of a glacial stream winding through the valley, and the gentle, low hums of the grazing herd wash over the newborn in a soothing auditory tapestry. Every nerve ending tunes into the frequencies of the mountain. A light breeze brushes past the damp fringe of the cria's eyelashes, carrying the complex scent notes of damp earth, warming stone, and the reassuring musk of the mother standing close by. These neurological signals fire quietly, linking the fragile body to the wider world and guiding the newborn toward its next instinctive milestone. Beneath the soft, protective canopy of the mother's watchful gaze, The tiny body begins a quiet internal rehearsal for motion. Biological instructions, encoded deep within the DNA of camelids, guide the newborn's developing nervous system through a series of subtle neuromuscular tests. Tiny muscle fibers beneath the damp, golden coat begin to twitch, a series of rhythmic, involuntary contractions that send gentle ripples across the fragile frame. These micro-movements stimulate blood flow, warming the delicate joints and preparing the skeletal muscles for their first major exertion against gravity. Gradually, the cria gathers its slender limbs, tucking them neatly underneath its warm torso in an instinctive sphinx-like posture. This positioning concentrates the body's center of gravity and allows the joints, still softened by the final stages of gestation, to experience the initial measured weight of the upper body. Each articulation in the knees and ankles flexes and releases in slow, experimental sequences. Tendons and ligaments, hydrated by rich synovial fluid, stretch and adapt to the firm, rocky earth below. The mother dips her long neck downward, breathing a warm, steady stream of air over her offspring's shoulder, offering a silent encouragement that seems to synchronize with the pulsing energy building within the cria's muscles. With every gentle breath, the ribcage expands, anchoring the core stability needed for the monumental effort ahead. The ground beneath them grows slightly warmer as the sun climbs higher, softening the frost and providing a steady, reliable foundation where fragile bones will soon test their strength. High upon the Andean slope, where the morning sun finally reaches past the jagged peaks, the air warms the resilient blades of ichu grass. A gentle mountain wind sweeps softly across the meadow, carrying the distant, soothing murmur of a flowing stream. On the cushioned earth, the newborn cria stirs. A sudden, powerful wave of neurological activation ripples through its tiny frame, driven by ancient instincts wired deep within its developing nervous system. Motor pathways fire in rapid succession, sending urgent electrical signals from the brain down through the spinal cord to the slumbering limbs. The cria blinks against the brilliant daylight, its long lashes fluttering. Slowly, awkwardly, the slender legs uncurl from the fetal posture. The first attempt brings a gentle quiver of trembling joints, as undeveloped muscles test their strength against gravity. With a determined heave, the cria tucks its forelegs underneath its chest. The anatomy of the camelid reveals its brilliant design here. Specialized carpal joints and elastic tendons begin to lock into alignment, providing structural support without requiring immediate, exhausting muscular exertion. The tiny creature pushes upward. Its front feet, featuring two-toed padded soles rather than hard hooves, press gently into the soft, yielding soil, gripping the earth with remarkable stability. Next come the hind limbs. They straighten with a wobbling sway, tracing a delicate arc through the cool mountain air. For a fleeting second, balance teeters on the edge of uncertainty. Then, the hocks lock firm. The cria is upright, standing on all four slender pillars. It sways slightly like a newly sprouted reed in the breeze, marveling at the vast, high-altitude world unfolding before its wide, dark eyes. Beneath the slender ankles, the architecture of the cria's feet reveals an evolutionary masterpiece tailored for the high-altitude terrain. Unlike the sharp, cloven hooves of deer or the heavy iron shoes of horses, camelid paws feature two distinct digits equipped with strong, curved toenails on top and remarkably soft, leathery pads underneath. This specialized anatomy distributes the newborn's weight across a wider surface area, preventing the delicate limbs from sinking deep into the porous volcanic soil or sliding down the steep incline. As the cria shifts its newly conquered balance, these elastic foot pads compress against the earth, molding seamlessly around tiny pebbles and cushioned tufts of ichu grass. This design provides exceptional tactile feedback to the nervous system while leaving the fragile alpine sod undisturbed. There is no heavy impact, no tearing of roots or bruising of the mountain meadows that sustain the herd through the changing seasons. Every step remains remarkably quiet, accompanied only by the subtle whisper of dry blades brushing against fur. The mother watches over this delicate foot placement, her soft, low hum vibrating gently through the thin morning air. With each slight sway of the newborn's slender legs, the padded toes grip the sloping meadow with increasing confidence. The cool soil offers a secure foundation, steadying the wobbly joints as the sun climbs higher in the azure sky, warming the rich earth beneath these remarkable, resilient souls. With the newborn now balanced upon its cushioned pads, the mother initiates the profound process of connection. She turns her long, graceful neck toward her offspring, emitting a low, rhythmic humming sound that reverberates deep within her chest. This gentle vocalization is a specialized frequency, designed to envelop the cria in a familiar, acoustic sanctuary, while the ambient sound of the gentle mountain wind rustles softly through the dry ichu grass. She steps closer, her large, dark eyes softening as she lowers her head to inhale the unique scent of her newborn. This intricate olfactory exchange imprints the cria's distinct chemical signature into her memory, cementing a lifelong maternal recognition. To guide the unsteady infant toward the nourishment it urgently requires, the mother employs subtle, deliberate body language. She positions her warm flank alongside the cria, using the gentle curve of her neck to gently nudge the little one forward, steering its hesitant movements away from the slope's edge and toward the safety of her side. Every touch is measured and tender, reinforcing a sense of absolute security in the high-altitude meadow. As the cria leans trustingly against her solid frame, it absorbs the steady, reassuring rhythm of its mother's breathing. This close physical contact regulates the newborn's heartbeat, melting away the lingering tremors of birth. Bathed in the warming embrace of the late morning sun and surrounded by the quiet harmony of the valley, the pair stands united, woven together by the ancient, unbroken threads of instinct, touch, and sound. Guided by instinct, the newborn tilts its head upward, searching along the soft curve of the maternal flank for the hidden source of sustenance. The mother accommodates the clumsy, eager movements by shifting her weight, lifting a hind leg slightly to grant unimpeded access. With a soft rustling of ichu grass and the subtle sound of footsteps settling into soft soil, the cria locates the teat and begins to nurse. This first feeding delivers colostrum, a specialized milk brimming with concentrated antibodies and vital proteins. Because camelid placentas prevent the transfer of immunities during gestation, the newborn enters the world entirely dependent on this initial golden fluid. As the nutrient-rich colostrum flows, it coats the fragile lining of the cria's digestive tract, bestowing a vital shield against the biting chill and microbial challenges of the high-altitude environment. The mother continues her low, soothing hum, a steady vibration that resonates through the cool mountain air alongside the distant, melodic murmur of a flowing stream. With every rhythmic swallow, the cria absorbs not only essential nourishment for its developing tissues, but also the chemical blueprint for its future survival. Its belly gently rounds, filled with the warmth of life-sustaining milk. The frantic energy of birth slowly dissolves into a heavy, contented drowsiness, preparing the little one for its very first afternoon of deep, restorative rest in the sun-drenched meadow. High above the valley floor, the morning mist finally surrenders to the advancing light. The sun climbs higher into the pale blue expanse, piercing through the lingering vapor and casting a long, golden illumination across the sloping meadow. As the solar warmth washes over the damp earth, it coops a gentle, earthy fragrance from the resilient ichu grass and the moist soil beneath. This thermal blanket reaches the resting herd, where thick, insulating coats of fleece absorb the rising heat. Alpacas possess a double-layered fleece, a fine, crimped undercoat shielded by longer, coarser guard hairs. This specialized evolutionary adaptation acts as a thermal regulator, trapping the sun's energy against their skin while reflecting the biting ultraviolet radiation of the high-altitude atmosphere. Across the meadow, heavy eyelids droop and long necks stretch comfortably against the ground as the adults drift into a shared, tranquil repose. At the center of this quiet circle, the newborn cria settles deeply into the spring turf. The sun's rays gently penetrate its damp, newborn fibers, evaporating the remnants of birth and warming the fragile frame beneath. Its newly filled belly processes the rich colostrum, a metabolic reaction that naturally generates internal body heat. Surrounded by the steady, rhythmic breathing of its resting family, the little camelid sinks into the soft grass. The ambient sounds of the mountain, a soft, whispering breeze rustling through the golden stalks and the distant, silver chime of a flowing stream blend into a soothing lullaby. Bathed in the restorative glow of the late morning, the young alpaca drifts peacefully into a profound and dreamless sleep. Beside the resting mother, the newborn cria rests in absolute peace. Within its tiny stomach, the complex process of digestion has quietly begun. As a ruminant in training, the cria's specialized four-chambered stomach slowly breaks down the nutrient-dense colostrum, initiating the vital colonization of beneficial gut microflora that will eventually allow it to process fibrous mountain vegetation. This internal metabolic work generates a steady, soothing warmth, radiating outward from its core and comforting its fragile limbs against the cool spring soil. Slowly, the rise and fall of the little camelid's chest synchronizes with the deeper, measured breathing of the surrounding herd. A soft, low humming resonates through the meadow as a nearby female acknowledges the newcomer, her gentle vocalization vibrating gently in the still, high-altitude air. The herd remains anchored in this tranquil midday pause, their long necks resting gracefully upon the spring turf, perfectly content under the expansive, clear sky. The gentle mountain wind subsides to a barely perceptible whisper, trailing softly through the pale stalks of ichu grass and carrying away the faint, earthy scent of damp soil and sun-warmed fleece. Far down the slope, the distant stream continues its steady, musical descent over smooth stones, providing a continuous, hypnotic backdrop of sound. Enveloped by this serene landscape, the young alpaca relaxes every muscle, letting go of the profound effort of its first few hours of life. In the quiet cradle of the high meadow, time slows down, and the peaceful rhythm of the mountain cradles the newborn into a deep, restorative stillness. High above the timberline, a gentle mountain wind carries the crisp, clean scent of melting snow down into a sheltered alpine valley. Here, cradled by ancient stone slopes, a meandering stream whispers a quiet, constant song over smooth, rounded pebbles. Along its fertile banks, spring has coaxed a dense, vibrant carpet of emerald green vegetation to life, offering a tranquil haven for a family of alpacas. The herd moves as a single, harmonious unit, navigating the damp, spongy soil with remarkable grace. Unlike heavier hooved mammals, adult alpacas possess split upper lips and two-toed feet featuring leathery pads and curved toenails. This specialized anatomy allows them to press lightly upon the delicate alpine turf without breaking the fragile root systems or churning the earth beneath them. They step deliberately, their fleece swaying in rhythm with their measured gait, maintaining a calm and unhurried pace. At the center of this moving constellation walks a mother alpaca and her growing cria. The little one stays pressed close to its mother's warm flank, matching her steps with wide-eyed curiosity. Every rustle of the surrounding ichu grass sounds like a soft, welcoming sigh under the midday sun. Distant birdsong drifts across the valley from a rocky outcropping, blending seamlessly with the low, murmuring current of the nearby water. The herd drifts deeper into the valley basin, drawn toward the richest patches of spring forage. Each adult maintains a relaxed yet watchful awareness of the wider landscape, securing a peaceful atmosphere where the younger generation can grow, wander, and rest without a single care. Reaching a particularly lush patch of clover and tender shoots, the lead female pauses. The growing cria watches closely, its long lashes blinking sleepily against the bright, high-altitude light. To understand how the herd feeds without depleting their fragile mountain home, one must look closely at their specialized dental anatomy. Unlike cattle or sheep, alpacas do not possess upper incisors. Instead, they feature a tough, hardened upper gum pad that meets a sharp, slanted row of lower incisors. The mother demonstrates this delicate technique. She curls her split upper lip back, allowing the sensitive cleft to sort through the vegetation, selecting only the most nutritious blades of grass. With a gentle upward motion of her head, her lower teeth press firmly against the leathery gum pad. The grass is neatly clipped rather than ripped away, leaving the living root systems entirely intact beneath the damp earth. This precise cropping action ensures the resilient alpine plants will quickly regenerate, preserving the fragile ecosystem for seasons to come. As the mother grinds the forage from side to side using powerful jaw muscles, the young cria tilts its head, mimicking the motion with its own tiny, emerging teeth. It is an ancient, generational lesson in sustainable grazing, passed down silently under the warm midday sun. The surrounding adults continue this rhythmic harvesting, their soft, continuous clipping blending harmoniously with the rustle of the ichu grass and the distant, soothing murmur of the stream. Each mouthful is processed with remarkable efficiency, preparing the alpacas for the complex digestive work ahead in the cool quiet of the afternoon. As the midday sun climbs to its highest point above the sheltered valley, a quiet stillness begins to settle over the scattered herd. The active foraging slows, and one by one, the adult alpacas pause their grazing. It is time for rumination, a vital physiological process that defines the camelid family. The mother finds a comfortable patch of soft turf and lowers her body, folding her slender legs beneath her in a graceful, compact cushion. The young cria drops down right beside her, resting its fluffy chin softly upon her warm flank. With half-closed eyes, the youngster watches its mother enter a state of deep, rhythmic digestion. Alpacas possess a specialized three-chambered stomach system, distinct from the four-chambered stomachs of true ruminants. As the fibrous spring grasses begin to ferment in the first forestomach chamber, the mother periodically regurgitates a small, neatly packaged bolus of food, known as cud, back up her slender neck. A gentle, mesmerizing motion follows. The adult female moves her lower jaw in a steady, circular, grinding pattern, chewing the fibrous material again to break it down further before swallowing it back into the digestive tract. The cria tilts its head, observing the slight, rhythmic movement of its mother's cheek with sleepy curiosity. It tries to mimic the slow chewing motion, moving its own tiny jaw in silent harmony. All around them, other members of the family group settle into the damp, fragrant earth, engaging in the same peaceful, cyclical resting behavior. A soft, contented sigh escapes the mother, vibrating gently through the quiet air. Safe within the protective circle of resting bodies, the cria lets its eyelids grow heavy, lulled by the steady, biological rhythm of the herd digesting the nourishment of the spring meadow. In the quiet warmth of the afternoon, acoustic communication weaves the resting family together. A soft, low-frequency hum vibrates through the air, originating deep within the mother's chest. This gentle vocalization is the primary acoustic currency of the alpaca world, serving to confirm presence and reinforce spatial awareness without disturbing the profound peace of the valley. The cria responds with an even higher-pitched, breathy hum, a sweet answering note that communicates comfort and safety. This delicate exchange of sound acts as an auditory blanket, wrapping around the youngster to reassure it that the protective herd is close by. Mother and offspring communicate almost entirely through these subtle tones, alongside subtle ear movements and gentle nose-to-nose touches. Such vocal bonding is vital for the social cohesion of camelids. It establishes a secure perimeter of familiarity within the wider herd, allowing adults to relax their vigilance just enough to doze while remaining tuned to the unique voice of their kin. As the gentle mountain breeze carries the soft humming back and forth across the resting formation, the melodic vibrations blend harmoniously with the rustling ichu grass and the distant, soothing murmur of the meandering stream. Lulled by the acoustic blanket of maternal vocalizations, the young cria breathes deeply. Each hum acts as a reassuring heartbeat, anchoring the youngster in a profound sense of belonging. Secure in the center of the resting family, the cria closes its eyes entirely, melting into the tranquil afternoon rhythm of the high-altitude meadow. Even in the deep peace of the midday resting formation, the alpaca herd possesses a quiet, layered awareness. While the youngest crias doze safely near the center of the family group, maturity brings responsibility. Select adult members of the herd lift their long necks periodically from the rich ichu grass, pausing their gentle rumination to scan the open expanse of the sheltered alpine valley. These vigilant sentinels do not show anxiety, rather, their posture is one of calm, grounded alertness. Their large, dark eyes sweep across the distant ridgelines where the valley opens to the high plateaus. Long, soft ears swivel independently, one catching the rustle of the meandering stream, the other tuned to the whispering mountain wind and the quiet breathing of the resting herd. This shared vigilance is distributed fluidly among the mature alpacas, rotating naturally so that no single animal bears the burden of watchfulness for too long. By maintaining this collective situational awareness, the adults create an invisible sphere of absolute safety. It is an evolutionary adaptation born of high-altitude ecosystems, ensuring that vulnerability is met with collective protection. If a shadow passes too swiftly across the valley floor or an unfamiliar sound drifts on the breeze, a single low warning breath from a vigilant guardian will instantly align the entire family. For now, however, the horizon remains undisturbed. The scanning heads lower once more, returning gracefully to the rich pasture. The adults rejoin their companions in the slow, rhythmic chewing of cud, trusting one another implicitly to keep watch over the sleeping future of the herd. Above the sheltering embrace of the alpine valley, high-altitude cumulus clouds begin to gather, softening the bright midday sun into a diffused, pearlescent glow. The gentle mountain wind shifts slightly, carrying a cool, damp promise of late afternoon moisture. Sensing the subtle atmospheric change, the alpaca herd initiates a slow, synchronized transition from active grazing to collective rest. One by one, the animals tuck their slender legs neatly beneath their warm, fleece-covered bodies, settling into a comfortable sternal recumbency directly upon the spring-scented turf. They arrange themselves in a loose, harmonious cluster, facing various directions to maintain an all-around field of view, yet leaning close enough for their woolly flanks to brush reassuringly against one another. Even as their bodies grow heavy and still, the inner machinery of digestion continues its quiet, miraculous work. Deep within their specialized three-chambered stomachs, millions of beneficial microbes break down the tough ichu grass fibers harvested earlier in the day. The alpacas periodically bring up small boli of cud, chewing them with a slow, hypnotic lateral motion that produces a soothing, rhythmic cadence across the resting group. Low, resonant humming sounds ripple through the dampening air, soft acoustic signals of contentment shared between mothers and their dozing crias. The meandering stream babbles a steady, hypnotic accompaniment over water-smooth stones, blending with the gentle exhalations of dozens of relaxed lungs. Secure within the heart of the family, the young cria stretches its long neck flat upon the verdant earth, closing its dark eyes in total peace. As the soft shadows lengthen across the valley floor, the entire herd drifts into a profound, restorative slumber, cradled safely by the mountain earth and the quiet solidarity of the pack. High upon the vast Andean altiplano, a gentle mountain wind sweeps across the open plateaus, rustling the golden ichu grass in soft, rhythmic whispers. The late afternoon sun hangs low in the crisp, azure sky, casting long, dramatic shadows that stretch lazily across the undulating volcanic plains. These lengthening dark silhouettes transform the landscape, painting the earth in deep indigos and warm amber tones. With this shift in the sun's angle, the radiant warmth of midday slowly recedes, replaced by the crisp, refreshing edge of the mountain evening. At over 4,000 meters of elevation, the thin atmosphere offers little insulation against the dropping temperatures, prompting subtle physiological adjustments within the resident alpaca herd. Thick, insulating fleece, an evolutionary marvel composed of dense, hollow core fibers, begins to trap the fading heat against their skin, providing a natural defense against the oncoming chill. Far in the distance, the jagged silhouettes of ancient volcanic peaks stand like silent guardians against the fading light. A distant bird call echoes across the open expanse, followed by the faint, muffled sound of a loose rock tumbling down a far-off slope. Amidst these sweeping vistas, the herd moves with a tranquil, deliberate grace. Soft alpaca humming vibrates through the quiet air, a low, resonant sound of social cohesion that binds the family group together as the shadows grow ever longer, wrapping the high-altitude world in a peaceful, cooling embrace. Amidst the sea of golden grasses, the mature members of the herd pause their rhythmic grazing, lifting their long necks in synchronized stillness. These adult sentinels form the backbone of the troop's complex social hierarchy, anchoring the family group in quiet security. Their large, dark eyes sweep across the vast horizon, tracking every subtle shift in the darkening landscape with unwavering focus. High-altitude survival on the exposed plateau demands absolute vigilance, particularly as twilight approaches and stealthy predators like the Andean fox begin their evening patrols. Communication within the herd relies on subtle shifts in posture and silent attentiveness. Without a single sound, an alpha female shifts her weight and points her mobile ears directly toward a ridgeline miles away. Those remarkable ears, covered in soft fleece yet capable of independent rotation, pivot constantly, cupping the air to catch the faintest echo of a distant sound. Every adult stands aligned with the wind, using their keen sense of smell to detect unseen scents carried up from the valleys below. This shared defensive posture is instinctual, refined by generations of adaptation to a harsh environment. While the younger members of the family group rest or nurse, these experienced guardians remain planted like statues against the sweeping slopes. Their powerful chests, developed through a lifetime of breathing thin, oxygen-poor air, rise and fall in a slow, steady cadence. By maintaining this unbroken circle of watchfulness, the adults create a safe sanctuary where the vulnerable cria can grow and rest, cocooned within the quiet, protective vigilance of the herd. Drifting across the quiet air, a soft, resonant hum vibrates gently from deep within the chest of the lead female. This low-frequency vocalization, barely carrying past the immediate family group, acts as an acoustic anchor across the darkening expanse. It is a comforting tether, signaling steady reassurance to the rest of the herd as the afternoon cools. In response, a nearby adult exhales a breathy, rolling note, acknowledging the quiet status report without breaking the calm rhythm of the group. Alpacas rely heavily on these nuanced auditory cues combined with expressive ear posturing to navigate their intricate social hierarchy. A slight tilt backward of the pinnae, the mobile outer ears, communicates mild irritation or a reminder of personal space, instantly understood and respected by neighboring herd members. When an adult flicks its ears sharply forward, it pinpoints a sudden rustle in the surrounding vegetation, prompting an immediate ripple of aligned attention through the grazing circle. These subtle adjustments create a fluid, highly coordinated network of shared awareness. The gentle mountain wind occasionally sweeps through the stiff ichu grass, carrying the low, murmuring hums across the dusty soil. It is a language of breath and posture, refined over millennia to maintain absolute cohesion without drawing the attention of watchful eyes along the distant ridgelines. As the shadows stretch longer and deeper indigo tones replace the golden glare, this acoustic communion weaves a blanket of safety over the resting troop. The soft, rhythmic pulsing of sound lulls the landscape into a deep, settling peace, wrapping every member in the quiet reassurance of family. Awakened by the soothing vibration of the herd's chorus, the young cria stretches its slender legs and springs abruptly into motion. With an awkward yet joyful bound, it launches itself across the open meadow, propelled by a sudden surge of late afternoon energy. This spontaneous burst of play is essential for healthy musculoskeletal development, strengthening the growing joints and tendons that will soon support adult weight on treacherous terrain. As the little one dashes in a wide, looping circle, its delicate frame tests the limits of coordination, mastering the intricate balance required to navigate the uneven terrain of the Altiplano. Its mother watches closely from her resting spot in the ichu grass, her large, dark eyes following every leap with tender, unwavering attention. She does not move, allowing the youngster the freedom to explore its physical boundaries while remaining safely within her watchful gaze. In the thin mountain air, every stride demands greater cardiovascular effort, naturally expanding the cria's lung capacity and teaching its red blood cells to efficiently capture scarce oxygen at high altitudes. Each playful buck and twisting pivot builds vital stamina, conditioning growing muscles for the demands of migration and survival. The ground rebounds softly beneath slender hooves, accompanied by the gentle sigh of mountain wind whispering through the stiff grass. As the brief, exuberant sprint loses its momentum, the cria slows to a gentle trot, its breath puffing softly into the cooling air before it returns happily to the quiet sanctuary of its mother's side. That brief, breathless dash across the high meadow reveals a remarkable internal engineering at work. High upon the Altiplano, the atmosphere holds far fewer oxygen molecules per breath than the lowlands below, presenting a constant physiological challenge to any growing mammal. Yet, camelids possess an ancient, specialized adaptation within their blood that turns this thin mountain air into a steady, reliable fuel. Deep inside the young cria's bloodstream, millions of oval-shaped red blood cells circulate with an unusually high affinity for oxygen. Unlike the round erythrocytes found in many other mammals, these unique oval cells pack densely and bind oxygen molecules with exceptional tenacity, ensuring that even when the wind blows thin and cold across the volcanic peaks, vital organs and developing muscles receive a rich, continuous supply. During these afternoon bursts of play, the cria's heart rate elevates gracefully, pumping oxygenated blood through a lightweight, efficient frame designed specifically for extreme elevations. There is no heavy, exhausted panting or dangerous oxygen debt. Instead, the respiratory system operates with quiet, elegant precision, gradually increasing lung capacity and strengthening cardiovascular endurance with every playful bound. As the little one rests against its mother's flank, its breathing settles back into a slow, peaceful rhythm. The specialized hemoglobin quietly does its invisible work, circulating warmth and vitality through slender limbs, preparing the young alpine traveler for the long, starry night ahead. As the afternoon shadows stretch entirely across the plateau, the gentle mountain wind takes on a sharper, colder edge, signaling a swift shift in the altiplano's temperature. This sudden chill prompts a natural behavioral transition throughout the herd, rooted in deep evolutionary survival. Slowly, the adult alpacas begin to cease their wandering, their thick, crimped fleece acting as a thermal blanket against the dropping mercury. This dense fiber is composed of millions of microscopic air pockets that trap body heat, a crucial seasonal adaptation for enduring freezing desert nights at high altitudes. One by one, the herd members adopt stern, quiet postures, settling gracefully onto the frosted ground with legs tucked neatly beneath their warm bodies. A soft, low alpaca humming resonates through the quiet air, a resonant vocalization produced deep within the chest to signal contentment and maintain gentle social cohesion as darkness draws near. The matriarch turns her head toward the distant volcanic peaks, rotating her velvety ears one final time to catch the faint rustling of ichu grass and distant bird calls before resting her weight against the earth. The young cria mirrors this calming sequence, pressing its small frame close to its mother's side to share in her radiant warmth. The exuberant energy of the afternoon dissolves completely into a deep, steady stillness. Beneath the canopy of a darkening sky, the herd rests in absolute tranquility, cradled by the quiet strength of the mountain. High above the clouds, on the vast and rugged Andean plateau, the final amber embers of twilight surrender to the advancing night. The jagged stone peaks, etched sharply against the pale indigo sky moments ago, soften into blurred charcoal silhouettes as the last rays of daylight dissolve entirely. A profound shadow spills across the rocky landscape, plunging the sheltered hollow into a deep, velvety darkness. With the vanishing light, the ambient temperature drops precipitously. The thin mountain air surrenders its remaining daytime warmth to the stars, shifting the sensory world from one of sweeping vistas to intimate sensations of sound and touch. A gentle, cooling mountain wind weaves through the crevices, carrying faint night air whispers and the dry, papery rustling of distant brush. Beneath the endless expanse of the starlit sky, the earth settles. This sudden chill triggers an immediate physiological response in the resting wildlife. To manage the rapid heat loss in the freezing altitude, the alpacas begin to gather closely together within the protective embrace of the stone walls. As the darkness deepens, the landscape is punctuated only by the faint sound of stones settling underfoot and the soft, muffled rustle of thick fleece brushing against ancient rock. Vision recedes as the primary guide for the herd, replaced by the comforting warmth of proximity and the shared rhythm of the night. The high slopes grow utterly still, wrapped in the quiet peace of the high-altitude dark. Within the sheltered embrace of the hollow, the herd members systematically settle onto the earth, adopting sternal recumbency. This specialized resting posture is an ancient evolutionary adaptation to the harsh, wind-swept extremes of the high Andes. One by one, the animals lower their centers of gravity, shifting their weight gracefully downward until their chests and bellies rest flush against the cool ground. With quiet precision, they tuck their slender legs neatly beneath their warm bodies. By folding the limbs inward, the alpacas drastically minimize their exposed surface area, sealing away the delicate extremities from the biting nocturnal frost. Their long necks curve inward in relaxed arches, bringing the dense insulation of their fleece into a compact, unified dome. This meticulous positioning is crucial for effective thermoregulation. The thick, crimped fibers of the outer coat trap countless pockets of insulating air against the skin, creating a formidable thermal barrier that locks in the day's accumulated warmth. Pressed together shoulder to shoulder, the family group shares this pooled heat, turning the cold mountain stone into a stable hearth. Every movement is deliberate and unhurried, driven by the quiet instinct to conserve every precious calorie of energy as the night grows colder. At these elevations, as starlight sharpens and temperatures plunge far below freezing, The alpaca's remarkable coat reveals its true physiological brilliance. Developed over millennia of high-altitude evolution, this multi-layered fleece functions as an exceptional thermal shield against punishing sub-zero wind chills. The outer guard hairs are long and resilient, shedding any ambient moisture while breaking the force of the mountain drafts. Beneath this protective outer veil lies the finer, crimped undercoat, a dense network of microscopic fibers uniquely structured to trap countless minute pockets of stagnant air close to the skin. Because air is a poor conductor of heat, these captive microlayers form a robust thermal barrier that prevents internal body heat from escaping into the frigid night. For the growing cria, nestled securely against its mother's flank, this biological insulation is a masterclass in natural engineering. The mother's fleece, packed thick with dense lanolin and spiraled crimps, acts as a luxurious, down-like blanket. As the cria breathes rhythmically, the warm air exhaled near the mother's coat is gently caught and rewarmed within the fleece matrix, enveloping the young animal in a cocoon of steady, comforting warmth. Even as the night air whispers over the high slopes, the fiber density prevents convective cooling from reaching the skin. The alpacas rest undisturbed, their physiology quietly managing the intense cold through sheer structural adaptation. It is a seamless, silent defense, maintaining core body temperatures without a single shiver, cradling the herd in profound and effortless security. Curled tight against the broad expanse of its mother's flank, the growing cria finds its ultimate sanctuary from the mountain chill. At this close range, the physical proximity creates a shared microclimate, where the mother's radiant body heat envelops her offspring in a soothing, palpable embrace. The cria presses its small sternum flat against the ground, tucking its delicate limbs inward to mirror the adult herd's efficient posture, while its entire side rests flush against the dense wool of the maternal coat. Soft, low-pitched humming tones pass quietly between them in the dark, gentle vocalizations vibrating through the fleece rather than the air. These rhythmic, maternal murmurs require no wasted energy, yet they instantly reassure the young animal, reinforcing an unbroken bond of safety and absolute trust beneath the starry Andean sky. Every inhale and exhale sinks into a peaceful cadence, binding the two lives together in the stillness of the high-altitude night. As the gentle mountain wind brushes past the sheltered hollow, the cria's eyelids grow heavy. The steady rise and fall of the mother's chest serves as a living cradle, lulling the youngster deeper into restorative sleep. No predators threaten this high refuge. No harsh drafts penetrate the closely packed family group. Here, held safe within the quiet architecture of kinship and biology, the young alpaca drifts into dreams, warmed from within and cradled by the timeless resilience of the herd. A profound, velvet silence settles over the rocky hollow, drawing a heavy curtain of sleep across the entire family group. In the complete absence of twilight, the darkness is absolute, broken only by the brilliant, distant scatter of southern constellations. Within this stone embrace, the cooling night air softens. The collective presence of numerous warm bodies creates a localized greenhouse effect, generating a gentle microclimate that lifts the ambient temperature just a fraction above the freezing exterior. Across the hollow, the alpacas rest as one unified organism. Their individual resting metabolic rates drop into a state of quiet conservation, husbanding precious energy reserves for the coming dawn. A steady, synchronized pattern emerges from the shadows, a slow, deep cadence of respiration that ripples through the resting herd. Inhale together. Exhale together. The gentle rise and fall of dozens of wool-thickened chests produces a soft, maritime sound, reminiscent of a calm ocean tide washing softly against a pebble shore. This rhythmic breathing acts as a biological metronome, lulling the entire group into a state of profound, restorative sleep. Faint stones settle beneath tired limbs with microscopic shifts, while whispers of night air slide harmlessly over the curved crests of dense fleece insulation. There is no urgency here, only the steady, dependable heartbeat of the herd existing in complete harmony with the high-altitude winter. Enveloped by this shared chorus of quiet breaths, the young cria surrenders fully to the night, anchored safely within the collective warmth, breathing deeply as the long hours slowly turn toward morning. Through the deepest hours, the high plateau yields to an immense, unworried stillness. The stars wheel slowly across the vast expanse of the southern sky, silent guardians watching over the sleeping family. Within the protective curve of the hollow, the alpacas remain anchored in sternal recumbency, their folded limbs shielded completely from the dropping mercury. Their high-altitude adaptations, specialized red blood cells carrying oxygen efficiently through heavy coats, allow their bodies to rest without strain, sustaining a state of deep, restorative slumber that repairs fatigued muscle tissues and recharges metabolic energy reserves. The ambient temperature hovers near freezing, yet the dense, crimped architecture of their dual-coated fleece continues its quiet work of thermodynamic insulation, trapping warm air against the skin and locking out the mountain chill. Every individual remains cradled by the shared heat of the herd, enveloped in a tranquil vacuum where time itself seems suspended. The young cria sleeps soundly pressed against its mother's flank, its small chest rising and falling in effortless harmony with the steady rhythm of the adults. A gentle mountain wind whispers distantly across the ridge above, brushing past dry stems of scrub brush without disturbing the peace below. Nothing stirs the valley. The world is wrapped in patience, holding its breath in the quiet dark. As the long hours drift imperceptibly toward the pre-dawn horizon, the night maintains its soft, protective embrace. The herd rests on, dreaming under the starlight, cradled safely within the rugged heart of the Andean slopes as the world waits for the first pale hint of morning. High above the timberline, where the thin Andean air holds the crisp promise of a new day, summer arrives with a sudden, brilliant clarity. Dawn breaks slowly across the vast expanse of the high-altitude wetlands, known locally as the Bofidales. These ancient peat bogs, fed by the steady, slow-melting snows of distant glacial peaks, catch the first amber rays of the morning sun. Light dances upon the surface of narrow, crystal streams, weaving ribbons of gold through a landscape blanketed in rich emerald green. The morning air carries a tranquil, restorative hush, stirred only by a gentle wind whispering softly through the stiff, rustling grasses along the water's edge. High-altitude adaptation is a masterclass in resilience here, where plants grow in dense, low-lying cushions to escape the drying winds and nightly frosts. As the daylight deepens, a chorus of high-altitude birdsong drifts across the damp, spongy soil. Beneath this expanding, boundless blue sky, the high wetland acts as a vital sponge, storing the precious glacial runoff that sustains a rich community of life. The soil yields smoothly beneath padded feet, absorbing the quiet footsteps of the waking herd. It is an environment finely tuned to the rhythms of the earth, where every summer sunrise brings renewed warmth to the volcanic soils and life flows as steadily as the mountain streams. Soft, resonant humming drifts across the valley, a comforting cadence that binds the family herd together in the peaceful dawn. Stepping away from the protective flank of its mother, the juvenile alpaca now stands entirely on its own, a fully weaned yearling navigating the Bofidal with quiet confidence. No longer relying on maternal milk, its survival depends upon the rich, emerald expanse beneath its feet. It lowers its head toward a dense, rounded cushion plant, a marvel of high-altitude botany. These specialized plants grow in tight, compact domes to retain internal moisture and withstand the biting chill of the night, offering a vital food source across the peat bog. The young camelid approaches the vibrant green cushion with deliberate care. Its specialized dental anatomy is perfectly suited for this delicate task. Possessing a hard upper dental pad and sharp lower incisors, it gently snips the tender vegetation without uprooting the fragile root systems below. This specialized grazing behavior ensures the delicate wetland ecosystem remains undisturbed and capable of continuous summer growth. Each bite is methodical and unhurried, chewing the fibrous greens with a slow, rhythmic side-to-side motion of the jaw. With every mouthful of nutrient-rich foliage, the juvenile absorbs the deep energy of the summer sun captured within the plant tissues. Its stomach, chambered and efficient, begins the complex process of fermentation needed to break down the tough cellulose of high-altitude flora. There is a peaceful solitude in this independent feeding, a quiet rhythm matched only by the soft, murmuring current of the nearby glacial stream threading its way through the damp valley floor. Surrounded by the vast, open sky, the young alpaca pauses briefly to lift its head, tasting the clean, thin air before returning its gentle gaze to the lush, green feast below. To traverse the sponge-like terrain of the high Andean bog without sinking, the juvenile relies on an extraordinary anatomical design. Unlike hooved grazers that concentrate their entire mass onto narrow, pointed tips, the alpaca walks upon two-toed feet lined with broad, resilient leather pads. Beneath this tough outer skin lies a thick cushion of fatty tissue that acts as a natural shock absorber and weight distributor. As the young camelid steps forward, these flexible pads spread wide under its growing weight, seamlessly adapting to the undulating contours of the damp, peaty soil. This specialized foot structure is an evolutionary masterpiece tailored specifically for the fragile wetland ecosystem. By diffusing pressure across a wider surface area, the padded feet prevent the animal from churning up the delicate mud or puncturing the intricate root networks of the cushion plants. The fragile mosses and sedges remain securely anchored in the wet earth, preserving the integrity of the bofidal. Every stride is remarkably silent and light, leaving barely a trace upon the verdant carpet of the valley floor. Lifting each foot with deliberate grace, the yearling paces across the moisture-rich turf with newfound coordination. The cool, saturated ground yields gently beneath the padding, offering a soft, forgiving path for the morning's exploration. There is no heavy plunging or slipping in the mud. Instead, the animal moves with a fluid, floating rhythm that matches the tranquil environment. The broad toes part slightly as weight is applied, then gather neatly together as the leg lifts once more, demonstrating an effortless mastery of the delicate terrain. Secure in this natural footwear, the young alpaca continues its gentle journey across the sun-warmed wetlands, perfectly attuned to the tactile world beneath its soles. Drifting away from the quiet grazing grounds, the young alpaca approaches the glistening edge of a glacial stream where several other weaned youngsters have already gathered. In the crisp, warming light of the morning, this communal gathering place becomes a natural stage for gentle social development. Young camelids of similar age circle one another with soft, inquisitive hums, establishing the subtle dynamics of their emerging peer group within the broader family herd. Without hostility or fierce competition, these interactions serve a vital evolutionary purpose, laying the groundwork for the cooperative social hierarchy that will sustain them through the seasons. A pair of yearlings lowers their long necks, engaging in a light-hearted session of non-aggressive sparring. Their movements are deliberate and unhurried, more akin to a slow dance than a contest of strength. They gently press their chests together, intertwining their slender necks and practicing the balance and agility required for adult life. This playful pushing builds crucial motor coordination and strengthens the deep social bonds connecting the rising generation. Every pivot and shift of weight refines their muscular control, all while maintaining a relaxed, peaceful atmosphere beneath the expanding blue sky. Nearby, other members of the youth contingent pause to observe, occasionally joining in with a soft, rolling vocalization that ripples across the damp earth. The gentle wind carries these low, soothing sounds over the whispering grasses, harmonizing with the distant song of high-altitude birds. There is no tension in the air, only the comforting presence of kin sharing the bounty of the high wetland. As the sparring winds down, the youngsters settle shoulder to shoulder on the spongy moss, resting quietly in the warmth of the rising sun and enjoying the profound security of the herd. As the morning sun climbs higher into the vast, azure sky, the resting youngsters slowly rise, their fleece glowing golden in the strengthening light. The brief pause for rest transitions effortlessly back into the steady, tranquil rhythm of grazing. The young alpaca rejoins the wider family herd, seamlessly integrating into the ancient, unhurried choreography of daily survival on the high-altitude plateau. Ruminant digestion requires a continuous, patient intake of nourishment, and the juvenile now bends its long neck to select the most tender shoots of green cushion plants. With a side-to-side motion of the jaw, specialized teeth grind the fibrous vegetation, maximizing nutrient absorption from the sparse yet rich flora of the bofedal. This steady chewing is accompanied by a deep, internal warmth, a vital adaptation for life in an environment where temperatures can fluctuate dramatically between night and day. Around the young camelid, the adult herd members fan out across the spongy wetland, maintaining a relaxed yet vigilant spatial awareness. Each animal respects the quiet personal space of its neighbor, creating a dispersed pattern of calm productivity across the green expanse. There is a profound sense of communal harmony in the air, underscored by the gentle rustling of grasses swaying in the soft breeze and the distant, crystal-clear murmur of glacial meltwater. Every step the growing alpaca takes across the damp, yielding earth is cushioned by specialized, leathery footpads that distribute its weight evenly without disturbing the delicate peat beneath. This biological design preserves the fragile wetland ecosystem while allowing the animal to move with effortless grace. Contented and secure beneath the widening expanse of blue, the juvenile falls into a peaceful cadence of feeding and wandering, cradled by the timeless rhythms of the high Andes. High above the towering peaks, the summer sun ascends to its midday arc, bathing the sweeping bofedales in a broad, radiant glow. The crystalline air shimmers softly with rising heat, softening the crisp edges of the glacial streams and drawing a gentle mist from the saturated peat below. As the temperature slowly climbs, the dynamic energy of the morning begins to ease into a tranquil stillness, dictating a natural shift in the herd's behavior. Satiated by hours of steady foraging, the juvenile alpaca lifts its head, blinking lazily against the brilliant daylight. Its specialized thick fleece, perfectly adapted to insulate against both the freezing mountain nights and the intense solar radiation of high altitudes, now breathes out the accumulated warmth of the morning. With unhurried grace, the young camelid takes a few drowsy steps toward the center of the family group, where the adults are already beginning to settle onto the cool, damp earth. One by one, the herd members fold their slender legs beneath their bodies, tucking their necks low as they slip into the restorative quiet of midday rumination. The juvenile mimics this ancient posture, resting comfortably upon the spongy cushion plants. All around, the landscape hums with a peaceful cadence. The gentle wind sighs through the valley grasses, blending seamlessly with the low, contented murmurs echoing softly from resting throats. Cradled by the vast open sky and warmed by the gentle summer rays, the young alpaca surrenders to the heavy, soothing quiet of the afternoon. High above the sea of dry bunchgrass, the summer sun reaches its zenith, casting an intense, white-gold glare across the wide Andean flatlands. The ambient temperature climbs steadily, and the horizon begins to shimmer behind a soft veil of rising heat waves. In this thin, high-altitude air, solar radiation is remarkably direct, prompting an immediate behavioral shift across the resting herd of alpacas. Thermoregulation becomes the primary focus of survival during these blazing midday hours. Rather than expending valuable energy on foraging, the mature animals lift their heads, scanning the arid expanse for the familiar, shallow depressions carved into the sun-baked earth. They begin to move with slow, deliberate grace, seeking out open zones where gentle, intermittent breezes might offer a touch of relief from the heavy warmth. Trailing closely behind the lead females is a weaned juvenile alpaca. Independent of its mother for several seasons now, the young camelid watches the older herd members intently. Its dense, insulating fleece, an evolutionary marvel designed to trap warmth during freezing mountain nights, now presents a distinct physiological challenge under the summer sky. To combat the mounting heat stress and prevent overheating, the juvenile instinctively mimics the herd's coordinated retreat. As they approach the traditional resting grounds, the alpacas prepare to halt their afternoon journey. The faint rustling of dry earth accompanies their movements, blending softly with the gentle sigh of the shimmering heat wind. The juvenile adjusts its pace, aligning its body with the relaxed rhythm of the collective group, ready to settle into the cool dirt below. The herd converges gracefully upon flat, sun-bleached basins where centuries of wind have deposited fine layers of volcanic silt. These shallow depressions hold a subtle, lingering coolness just beneath the crust, making them ideal sanctuaries against the relentless glare. One by one, the mature alpacas select their spots, initiating a sequence of movements honed by generations of evolutionary adaptation. With a gentle shifting of weight, the animals lower their heavy frames to the earth. They tuck their slender legs neatly beneath their chests, settling into sternal recumbency. This specialized posture is a masterclass in behavioral thermoregulation. By resting squarely on the sternum, the alpacas keep their vital internal organs elevated away from the conductive heat of the baking ground while exposing their wool-clad flanks to any passing zephyr. The posture also minimizes physical exertion, allowing their metabolic rates to slow in tandem with the rising afternoon heat. The weaned juvenile observes this synchronized descent closely, choosing a small hollow just inches from a matriarch's resting flank. It folds its forelimbs inward, easing its body downward until its chest rests securely against the fine, powdery soil. A soft snorting of cooling breath escapes its nostrils, stirring a light patter of settling dust around its hooves. As the young camelid adjusts its weight, finding the exact center of balance, a profound hush settles over the flat land. The distant humming of resting camelids merges with the faint rustling of dry earth, creating a low, rhythmic cadence that lulls the entire group into a state of quiet, restorative stillness. Once settled in the dusty basins, the alpacas begin a meticulous ritual of fleece maintenance. The fine volcanic silt is not merely a resting place, it is an ancient, natural tool for hygiene and survival. With slow, deliberate grace, the animals shift onto their sides, kicking up delicate clouds of mineral-rich dust that catch the brilliant midday light before settling over their dense coats. The young alpaca watches this practiced choreography, then rolls gently onto its shoulder, mimicking the older herd members. It wriggles its back against the cool earth, allowing the microscopic particles to sift deep through the thick fibers of its fleece down to the sensitive skin beneath. This deliberate coating serves a vital biological function. The abrasive, mineral-heavy dust acts as a natural absorbent, drawing up excess natural oils and neutralizing unwanted moisture accumulated during the humid Andean summer mornings. Furthermore, this powdery armor provides an essential barrier against persistent ectoparasites. Biting insects and mites find it nearly impossible to navigate the fine, mineral-coated hairs, effectively protecting the juvenile from irritation and disease without the need for water. The dry earth desiccates any lingering pests while creating a physical shield that reflects a portion of the relentless solar radiation away from the body. As the juvenile rights itself, shaking its head with a gentle snort, a soft patter of excess dust drifts harmlessly to the ground. The The fleece now feels refreshed, breathable, and fortified against the elements. This rhythmic, calming ritual has sustained wild and domesticated camelids through countless generations, seamlessly blending comfort with survival in the high-altitude sun. With its freshly fortified fleece, the juvenile remains low to the ground, transitioning smoothly from its brief roll into a posture of profound, restorative rest. Around it, the older herd members settle deeply into sternal recumbency, folding their slender legs beneath their warm bodies in a synchronized display of ancient conservation. The shimmering heat wind sweeps across the arid flatlands, carrying the gentle, rhythmic humming of resting camelids, a low, resonant sound that vibrates softly through the dry earth. As the midday sun bakes the high-altitude landscape, this collective stillness becomes an exercise in vital energy management. In the thin Andean air, where every breath must be carefully measured, reducing physical activity during peak solar radiation is essential for survival. The juvenile rests its brisket against the cooling soil, letting its heavy eyelids droop as the ambient warmth envelops the herd in a drowsy, peaceful haze. Soft snorts of cooling breath escape the resting animals, stirring the fine volcanic dust in tiny, rhythmic eddies. There is no urgency here, only the steady, calming pulse of existence adapted to the rhythms of the earth. Every muscle slowly relaxes, allowing the dense fiber of the coat to insulate the body against the blazing sky above. Surrounded by the quiet solidarity of the family group, the young alpaca drifts into a state of tranquil slumber, cradled by the timeless, whispering winds of the high plateau. With dust bathing complete, the entire herd settles into a peaceful stillness. The shimmering heat haze distorts the distant mountain horizons, blurring the jagged peaks into soft, undulating brushstrokes of violet and ochre. Across the flatlands, the alpacas rest with lowered heads and half-closed eyes, their long necks curving in graceful lines toward the cooling earth. Respiration remains slow and steady, a deliberate physiological strategy to minimize internal metabolic heat production when the ambient temperature reaches its daily zenith. In this high-altitude refuge, where oxygen is scarce and solar radiation is intense, behavioral quiescence is the ultimate tool for thermal balance. The resting bodies cast short, sharp shadows upon the sun-baked soil, anchoring the animals to the desert floor in quiet defiance of the blistering afternoon. The atmosphere is one of profound tranquility. The faint rustling of dry earth has faded into nothingness, replaced entirely by the deep, rhythmic cadence of resting breath. Every member of the family group shares in this collective conservation, creating a safe, harmonious sanctuary of rest. The juvenile lets out a soft, contented sigh, its small chest rising and falling in effortless unison with the older alpacas beside it. Time seems to stretch across the plateau, untethered and unhurried. The gentle, shimmering heat wind whispers softly through the surrounding scrub, touching the dense woolen coats without disturbing their thermal efficiency. Cradled within this vast, sun-drenched expanse, the herd drifts deeper into slumber, perfectly attuned to the ancient, soothing rhythms of the Andean summer afternoon. Slowly, imperceptibly, the relentless weight of the midday sun begins to ease. The golden light shifts just a fraction, casting the first long, tapering shadows across the dry flatlands. Deep within the resting herd, a quiet physiological transition stirs. As the ambient temperature drops by a few degrees, metabolic demands adjust, signaling the end of the deepest restorative phase. The juvenile is the first to rouse, its long eyelashes fluttering open against the bright glare. With a soft, inquiring hum, it extends its slender neck, testing the cooling air. A nearby matriarch responds, her ears swiveling backward before she lifts her head with deliberate grace. One by one, the other alpacas follow suit, awakening from their sun-warmed slumber. They stretch their forelegs forward in a languid, unhurried motion, easing joints that have rested for hours against the cool volcanic earth. Circulation increases gently through their dense fleeces as they prepare for motion, their respiration quickening just enough to match the cooling breeze. The soft snorting of reawakened breath ripples through the family group, breaking the stillness of the afternoon. They do not stand all at once, but rather linger in a shared, transitional comfort, shifting their weight as they feel the pull of the distant slopes. The shimmering heat haze begins to dissolve into clear, crisp air, revealing the sweeping curves of the valley ahead. With gentle, coordinated movements, the herd gathers its energy, ready to drift upward into the coming evening shadows. As the afternoon sun begins its long descent toward the western horizon, the heavy warmth that blankets the lower Andean valley slowly yields to a refreshing, cooling mountain breeze. This gentle current of air carries the crisp scent of melting snow and weathered stone, stirring the alpaca herd from their midday rest. Guided by an innate rhythm shaped by generations of high-altitude survival, the matriarch lifts her head, ears twitching toward the upper slopes, and takes the first measured steps upward. Following close behind the experienced adults is a weaned juvenile, its fleece a soft, sun-warmed chestnut brown. The drop in temperature acts as a natural stimulus, encouraging the animals to seek out the steep mountain ridges where the most nutritious vegetation thrives. In these harsh elevations, plants must concentrate minerals and sugars rapidly during the brief summer season to endure the freezing nights, making the high outcrops a seasonal feast for a growing camelid. The journey upward requires steady, purposeful movement across increasingly rugged terrain. Soft, padding feet find purchase on ancient game trails carved into the mountainside by centuries of ancestral travel. As the herd winds higher, the ambient sounds of the wilderness shift. The distant, rushing murmur of a snow-fed stream mingles with the rhythmic, gentle clicking of hooves shifting over loose stone. The cooling air invigorates the juvenile, whose limbs stretch out in a fluid, balanced stride, perfectly adapted for navigating the steep inclines of its mountain home. To master the precipitous paths of the high Andes, the young alpaca relies upon an extraordinary anatomical design beneath its ankles. Unlike the hard, concussive hooves of other grazing mammals, the juvenile's feet are cushioned by resilient, leathery foot pads. These sensitive pads yield softly to the contours of the earth, molding seamlessly around jagged slate and uneven soil. They offer a silent, shock-absorbing tread that distributes the animal's growing weight evenly, protecting delicate joints during the climb. Embedded at the front of each split toe are strong, curved toenails. Far from being vestigial, these nails act as natural climbing irons, hooking securely into narrow ledges and loose scree to prevent slipping on the steepest inclines. This specialized foot structure grants the juvenile remarkable agility, allowing it to bound across exposed rock faces with quiet confidence. Crucially, this soft padded architecture is an evolutionary marvel for the fragile alpine ecosystem. Where heavier hooves might tear at fragile mountain turf, accelerate soil erosion, and dislodge ancient root systems, the alpaca's foot leaves the delicate tundra largely undisturbed. The fragile lichens, cushion plants, and dwarf shrubs that cling desperately to the rocky outcrops remain intact beneath the herd's passage. With every sure-footed placement, the juvenile moves in quiet harmony with the landscape, traversing the dizzying heights as if borne to the cliffside. The soft clicking of nails on stone fades into the gentle breeze, marking a quiet, effortless ascent into the cooling evening air. Reaching a narrow shelf where the mountain slope relents into a gentle bench, the juvenile pauses to inspect the sparse, sun-baked flora. At this high altitude, the plants face intense ultraviolet radiation, drying winds, and sub-zero night temperatures. forcing them to adapt by growing in tight, low-lying mats. To harvest this specialized nourishment, the young alpaca relies on a remarkably dexterous piece of facial anatomy, a deeply split upper lip. This cleft lip divides into two independent, mobile lobes that part flexibly to the sides. Guided by long, sensitive, tactile hairs, the juvenile sweeps its muzzle close to the ground, using the upper lip to sort through miniature rosettes and resilient bunchgrasses. It selects only the tender and green shoots while leaving the tough, woody stems behind. Once a choice tuft of mountain fescue is isolated, the lower incisors press upward against a hard dental pad in the upper jaw, neatly snipping the blade rather than ripping the plant from its shallow roots. This delicate browsing style protects the fragile cushion plants that anchor the thin alpine soil against erosion. As the young animal grazes, a gentle, rhythmic sound drifts on the breeze, the soft chewing of its continuous meal. Because alpacas are modified ruminants, food is swallowed, regurgitated, and rechewed to break down the highly lignified cell walls of high-altitude vegetation. In the complex, multi-chambered stomach, specialized fermentation chambers house dense colonies of microbes that steadily unlock essential nutrients from the fibrous diet. With every measured bite and rhythmic motion of its jaw, the juvenile fuels its steady growth, drawing rich energy from the austere beauty of the mountain heights. Inside the young alpaca's growing frame, an intricate internal engine operates with quiet, tireless efficiency. Unlike true ruminants with four-chambered stomachs, camelids possess a specialized three-chambered digestive tract comprising Compartment 1, Compartment 2, and Compartment 3, designed through millions of years of evolutionary adaptation to extract maximum nourishment from sparse, fibrous forage. As the juvenile continues its gentle browsing along the ridge, food enters the first two forestomachs. Here, without the aid of a gallbladder, a specialized cocktail of fluid and densely populated microbial colonies begins the arduous task of breaking down tough plant cell walls. The fermentation process never truly rests. Periodically, a small, neat packet of partially digested vegetation, a cud, slides smoothly back up the slender esophagus to the mouth. Against the backdrop of a distant, flowing stream, the rhythmic motion of the jaw resumes. The young alpaca grinds its molars in slow, deliberate circles, reducing the coarse mountain fescue into microscopic particles. This second chewing increases the surface area for the resident microbes, allowing them to unlock vital proteins and carbohydrates that would otherwise remain trapped within the rugged plant fibers. Swallowed once more, the mash passes deeper into the glandular third compartment, where digestive acids and enzymes complete the extraction of nutrients. This continuous loop of rumination and digestion supplies a steady, dependable stream of energy, fueling the gradual lengthening of limbs and the thickening of the warm fleece coat. Surrounded by the tranquility of the late afternoon, the young camelid's body works in seamless harmony with the rugged landscape, turning the austere harvest of the high heights into the quiet foundation of tomorrow's strength. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the jagged western peaks, the angle of the light shifts, draping the high mountain ridge in a rich, amber glow. This late summer radiance transforms the meandering herd into a living tapestry of warm, earthy tones. Every shade of fleece is cast into soft, luminous relief against the pale stone of the escarpment. The weaned juvenile stands atop a rounded knoll, its dense coat catching the slanted rays. Where the fibers are parted by the cooling mountain breeze, the light filters deep into the undercoat, illuminating a spectrum of natural colors. Beside the young alpaca, older herd members glow like polished bronze and sunlit slate. One mature female wears a coat of deep, reddish cinnamon that seems to absorb and radiate the heat of the dying day, while another displays a pristine, creamy white that shimmers softly against the dark shadows of the ravine. This remarkable variety in coloration is the result of selective adaptation and centuries of stewardship, yet each fiber type serves the same fundamental purpose. The outer guard hairs repel the chill of high altitudes, while the finer, crimped underfibers trap pockets of warm air close to the skin. As the breeze whispers through the sparse alpine flora, the rippling motion of the fleece creates a fluid, golden wave across the entire hillside. Bathed in this tranquil luminescence, the herd moves with a quiet, unhurried grace. The shadows lengthen across the rocky trails, stretching long and peaceful over the ground. In the fading warmth of the golden hour, the mountain world grows still, wrapped in a blanket of soft colors and deep, restorative calm. As the amber light surrenders to the soft, violet hues of dusk, the scattered rhythm of the afternoon begins to gently draw inward. Across the high ridge, the grazing alpacas lift their heads from the sparse alpine plants, their long necks turning slowly toward the center of the slope. Without a single sound, an ancient instinct pulls the family group together, shrinking the wide circle of daytime foraging into a compact, unified gathering. The weaned juvenile trots a few short steps down the rocky incline, lightly placing its soft padded feet among the stones to rejoin its mother. As the herd congregates on the sheltered shoulder of the mountain, the animals press close, sharing the warmth of their dense, woolly coats against the mounting chill of the evening air. Even at rest, the juvenile's internal furnace remains hard at work. Within its three-chambered stomach, fermentation continues uninterrupted, steadily breaking down the fibrous grasses gathered throughout the day into nourishing energy for bone and muscle growth. The soft, rhythmic sound of chewing ripples through the gathering herd, a slow, hypnotic cadence like the rustling of dry bunchgrass in the wind. Far below, a mountain stream murmurs over smooth stones, its steady voice blending with the gentle exhalations of resting bodies. One by one, the alpacas tuck their slender legs beneath their chests, settling gracefully onto the cool, mossy earth. The juvenile curls beside its mother, resting its chin upon the ground as the shadows deepen around them. Enfolded in the quiet safety of the herd, beneath a vast and darkening sky, the mountain world drifts into a deep and peaceful slumber. High upon the windswept Andean ridge, the summer sun begins its slow, unhurried descent toward the western horizon. As daylight wanes, the atmosphere shifts, painting the vast expanse of the sky in a breathtaking palette of bruised violet, brilliant amber, and soft, dusty rose. Wisps of high-altitude clouds catch the final, lingering rays, glowing like embers above the sprawling, shadowed valley floors far below. In these thin, crisp mountain airs, ultraviolet radiation is exceptionally high, prompting physiological adaptations among the native fauna. Yet now, in the cool hush of dusk, the solar intensity fades into a gentle, amber twilight. A gentle mountain wind sighs softly through the tufts of dry ichu grass, carrying the faint, earthy scent of volcanic soil and ancient stone. The juvenile alpaca pauses its foraging, lifting its soft muzzle from the sparse mountain vegetation. Its large, dark eyes reflect the fading fires of the sunset. High-altitude adaptations, such as a high concentration of hemoglobin in the bloodstream, allow this young South American camelid to thrive effortlessly in the thin oxygen of these majestic heights, even as the day's warmth rapidly bleeds from the rocks. Far across the valley, a lone mountain caracara calls out a final, distant note before settling into the darkening shadows. Around the juvenile, the rugged terrain grows still, blanketed by a profound, echoing quiet. The gravel shifts subtly beneath unseen paws down the slope, but up here on the ridge, the world seems to hold its breath. The luminous colors above slowly deepen into indigo, signaling the tranquil end of another alpine day and wrapping the sleeping heights in a velvety cloak of nocturnal peace. Drifting upward along the terraced slopes, the scattered family members begin to converge. Guided by ancient social memory, the herd moves with a quiet, synchronized fluidity toward the high crest of the ridge. The juvenile alpaca steps lightly, its delicate hooves navigating the uneven stones as it seeks the reassuring proximity of its elders. This collective gathering is a deeply ingrained behavioral adaptation, utilizing group cohesion to maximize safety as visibility diminishes across the high Andean ecosystem. As the scattered individuals merge into a unified knot, a gentle, resonant humming ripples through the group. This low-frequency vocalization serves as a subtle communication tool, reinforcing social bonds and maintaining calm order throughout the hierarchy of the herd. The juvenile lets out a soft, answering breath, tucking its slender frame deeper into the expanding cluster of woolly bodies. Around them, the ichu grass whispers against their shaggily insulated fleeces, which trap warm air efficiently against the plunging evening temperatures. By uniting into this close formation, the alpacas share ambient body heat, a vital physiological advantage in the thin, freezing air of the high-altitude night. The juvenile feels the comforting press of warm flanks on either side, wrapping it in a secure cocoon of shared presence. Step by step, the wandering band coalesces into a singular, tranquil entity upon the darkening heights, ready to face the quiet wilderness together. At the outermost perimeter of the gathering, the mature members of the herd assume their traditional positions. Forming a deliberate semicircle along the spine of the ridge, these experienced adults turn outward, facing the darkening valleys below. This structured deployment is a cornerstone of herd defense in the high Andean ecosystem, where visibility wanes and potential predators, such as the elusive mountain puma, begin their nightly prowls. Every elder stands with a grounded, unyielding posture, serving as a living barrier between the vulnerable youngsters in the center and the untamed wilderness. Their long, curved necks are held high and still, while their alert ears swivel independently, catching every whisper of the gentle mountain wind and the quiet shifting of gravel far down the slope. A subtle twitch of an ear or a slight rotation of a head communicates silent warnings across the line, maintaining a vigilant watch without disturbing the profound peace of the evening. Gazing past these steadfast guardians, the juvenile alpaca watches the descending shadows stretch across the sprawling valley floors. The elders' steady gazes pierce the growing gloom, their amber eyes adapted to track movement across vast expanses of rugged terrain. Secure within this living shield, the young alpaca feels the heavy eyelids of rest begin to take hold. The unblinking watchfulness of the mature alpacas creates an invisible dome of safety, wrapping the entire family group in a deep, enduring calm as the mountain night slowly settles in. Enveloped by this living ring of protective kin, the juvenile alpaca steps deeper into the quiet heart of the family group. Here, away from the chill of the mountain breeze brushing the ridge, the air is still and warmed by the collective presence of dozens of soft bodies. The nervous energy of the afternoon's foraging fades entirely, replaced by a profound, enveloping sense of security that only a highly social herd structure can provide. All around the young camelid, familiar companions begin to emit a low, soothing hum, a gentle, continuous vocalization that ripples through the center of the group like a lullaby. This subtle acoustic communication acts as an auditory anchor, reassuring every member of the family that all is well. The juvenile presses its soft, woolly flank gently against a calm adult, absorbing the steady, rhythmic heartbeat of the elder. Lacking the urgent need to monitor the vast ecosystem for threats, the young alpaca feels its muscles slowly soften. The tension in its slender legs melts away, and the instinctual drive for social proximity is fully satisfied within this sheltered sanctuary. Under the gathering velvet sky, breathing in the comforting scent of lanolin and trampled ichu grass, the juvenile sinks down smoothly into the earth, completely cradled by the tranquil, watchful heart of the herd. High above the sprawling valley floors, the mountain air undergoes a swift and dramatic transformation. As the final, fiery sliver of the sun slips below the jagged horizon, the radiant warmth of the summer day retreats, yielding immediately to the crisp chill of the high-altitude night. This rapid cooling occurs because thin mountain atmospheres hold little heat, causing temperatures to plummet the moment direct solar radiation fades from the rocky outcrops. Slowly, the gentle mountain wind begins to soften, shifting from a brisk afternoon breeze into a barely perceptible whisper that drifts across the ridge. With this drop in wind speed, the ambient soundscape changes entirely. The rustling ichu grass quiets, and the distant, echoing bird calls of the high-altitude ecosystem fade into a profound, velvety stillness. Only the occasional quiet gravel shifts beneath the heavy, padded feet of an alert sentinel on the perimeter disturb the mounting hush. The juvenile alpaca, nestled securely in the center of the resting herd, feels this thermal shift instantly. The thick fleece, evolved over generations to insulate against sub-zero Andean nights, traps the animal's body heat, creating a personal microclimate of cozy warmth. A faint, sweet mist begins to gather in the lower ravines, rising slowly toward the ridge like a soft breath. As the last lingering shades of violet and indigo dissolve from the upper atmosphere, the world grows wonderfully dim. Breathing in the cool, crisp air, the young camelid's eyelids grow heavy, lulled by the unchanging tranquility of the mountain heights and the quiet, steady rhythm of the family resting all around. One by one, the towering adult alpacas along the perimeter execute a graceful, fluid motion that signals the true end of the day. Bending their forelimbs with practiced ease, they tuck their legs neatly beneath their warm bodies, settling into sternal recumbency. This specialized resting posture minimizes their exposed surface area, conserving vital body heat against the chill radiating from the stony ground, while keeping their lungs uncompressed for effortless nocturnal breathing. In the absolute center of the formation, the juvenile mirrors the elders, letting out a soft, contented hum. The young camelid folds its slender legs beneath its fleece, sinking down into the soft cushion of earth and dried ichu grass. The perimeter sentinels remain steadfast, their long necks held high in a posture of relaxed vigilance, turning their ears outward to catch the faintest echoes of the nocturnal landscape. Yet, as the vast canopy of stars erupts across the ink-black Andean sky, even these watchful guardians let their eyelids droop, secure in the shared vigilance of the family group. High above the silent valleys, millions of distant stars pierce the velvet dark, casting a pale, ethereal glow over the motionless ridge. The thin, crisp air is still, carrying nothing save the slow, synchronized breathing of the resting herd. Wrapped in thick, insulating layers of fleece and surrounded by the quiet comfort of the family, the juvenile's breathing deepens and slows. The mountain winds have faded to a breathless whisper, leaving the high-altitude world enfolded in a deep, restorative peace that stretches outward across the sleeping peaks. High above the timberline, twilight surrenders gently to the vast, velvet expanse of the Andean night. As the last amber traces of day fade from the western horizon, the temperature on the high plateau begins its familiar, rapid descent. In this thin, crisp air, unhindered by moisture or clouds, a brilliant canopy of southern stars ignites, casting a soft, silvery radiance across the rugged terrain. Down in the sheltered basin, the alpaca herd has settled entirely into sternal recumbency, folding their slender legs neatly beneath their warm bodies. The young juvenile rests securely at the very center of the family group, cushioned by the calm presence of mature herd members on all sides. This instinctive clustering maximizes herd cohesion, creating a communal microclimate that conserves precious body heat against the chill of the midnight air. Above them, the Milky Way arches like a shimmering river of powdered light, its ancient constellations wheeling slowly across the hemisphere. Below, the landscape is wrapped in profound stillness. A gentle mountain breeze whispers faintly through the dry bunch grasses, carrying the subtle, earthy scent of dust and mountain scrub, but otherwise disturbing nothing. There is no rush here, no sudden movement, only the deep, restorative quiet of the high mountains at rest. Under the steady watch of the starlit sky, the plateau breathes as one, cradled in the deep, peaceful slumber of the midnight hours. To understand the deep peace of the high-altitude night is to understand sternal recumbency, the specialized resting posture that defines the camelid family. Unlike horses or deer that may sleep standing or awkwardly sprawled, the alpaca folds its limbs with quiet precision. Tucking forelegs and hind legs neatly beneath the torso, the animal forms a compact, stable base. This posture prevents undue pressure on vital blood vessels and allows the massive chest cavity to rest securely against the cool ground while preserving warmth. Within the center of the resting group, the juvenile practices this ancient art with effortless ease. Sinking low into the dry bunch grass, the young alpaca nests between the flanks of its mother and a watchful matriarch. This positioning is not merely a matter of comfort, it is a masterclass in herd cohesion and survival. By nestling deep within the tight formation, the juvenile is completely surrounded by warm, living bulk. The mechanics of this communal positioning create an ingenious thermal shield. As each animal settles into sternal recumbency, their dense, crimped fleece layers interlock and press close together, blocking the gentle mountain breeze from reaching the skin. The trapped air between the fibers acts as a natural insulator, sealing in body heat, protected on all flanks by the steady, rhythmic breathing of mature herd members. The juvenile drifts further into relaxation. The plateau's chill fades into the background, replaced by the quiet, shared warmth of the family group resting beneath the stars. High upon the exposed plateau, the desert-like clarity of the summer sky allows daytime heat to radiate rapidly back into the endless expanse of space. Within minutes of the sun dipping below the jagged horizon, the ambient temperature plummets toward freezing. Yet, the resting alpaca remains blissfully untouched by the sudden thermal shift, thanks to one of the most remarkable evolutionary adaptations in the animal kingdom, its ultra-dense fleece. Each individual fiber of the juvenile's coat possesses microscopic crimps and hollow cores engineered by nature to capture and hold still air. As the evening cools, the outer layer of guard hair and soft underfiber locks together, forming a thick, impenetrable mat. This complex architecture prevents convection, stopping the cold mountain wind from stealing warmth directly from the skin. Instead, the trapped air layers act as a thermal blanket, warmed continuously by the animal's basal metabolism. Even as the frost begins to lightly tip the dry bunchgrass blades with silver crystals, the juvenile's internal core temperature remains perfectly stable. The fleece does not simply cover the body, it creates a dynamic microclimate. The dense root structure of the fibers rises perpendicularly from the skin, maximizing loft and ensuring that body heat stays precisely where it is needed most. Wrapped in this organic fleece insulation, the young camelid experiences no shiver, only a deep, restorative warmth that eases every growing muscle into profound tranquility beneath the southern constellations. Beneath the steady brilliance of the southern stars, the resting herd grows entirely still, save for a gentle, rhythmic movement rippling softly through the darkness. This is the quiet hour of rumination, an ancient biological process that continues tirelessly while the world sleeps. Within the juvenile's specialized, three-chambered stomach, fermentation chambers work in a continuous, measured cadence. Tough grasses gathered during the afternoon sunlight are systematically broken down by specialized microorganisms, extracting every last molecule of nourishment from the sparse mountain flora. Every few moments, a small, neat packet of partially digested forage, known as the cud, travels smoothly back up the esophagus to be rechewed with patient deliberation. In the stillness of the night, this action generates a soothing chorus of sounds. Soft, rhythmic chewing echoes gently across the plateau, accompanied by occasional, low-pitched humming murmurs vibrating quietly in the chest cavity. The juvenile mimics the mature herd members nearby, moving its jaw in a slow, circular motion that grinds the fibrous plant matter into an easily absorbable mash. There is a meditative quality to these steady, repetitive motions. The fluid dynamics of the four stomach compartments balance digestion with water conservation, allowing the camelid system to operate with remarkable biological efficiency. As the jaws glide back and forth in the dark, the soft rustle of dry grass underfoot blends with the faint mountain breeze, creating an ambient tapestry of sound that lulls the surrounding landscape into deeper peace. Nothing disturbs this nocturnal labor, which fuels the animal's growth beneath the infinite canopy of night. As the midnight hours deepen, a profound biological calm settles over the resting herd. Within every chest, heart rates drift downward into a slow, measured cadence, conserving precious energy as the mountain chill intensifies. The autonomic nervous system shifts entirely toward rest and restoration, orchestrating a deep metabolic slowing that allows the juvenile's growing body to repair and strengthen in the dark. Every breath is slow, deep, and perfectly synchronized with the gentle rise and fall of the animals lying close on either side. This physical proximity is more than a strategy for sharing warmth. It is a profound anchor for herd cohesion. The collective presence of familiar forms, breathing in a steady, unified rhythm, sends subtle seismic cues through the ground that quiet the juvenile's vigilance entirely. Safe within the secure embrace of the family group, there is no need for watchfulness. In this shared tranquility, individual boundaries blur into a collective state of profound security. The rhythmic tempo of the resting herd acts as a natural metronome, measuring out the passing hours of the night in absolute peace. Suspended between the glittering canopy of stars above and the cool, steady earth below, the young alpaca drifts into a state of restorative stillness, cradled by the quiet resilience of the herd and the timeless rhythms of the high plateau. High above the jagged silhouette of the eastern peaks, the velvet darkness begins to soften. A microscopic shift in the atmosphere heralds the very first, imperceptible transition from night to morning, painted in shades of deepest indigo and pearl. The stars, once brilliant diamonds scattered across the southern sky, slowly recede, their ancient light dimming as the horizon breathes in the promise of a new day. Across the high plateau, the resting alpacas begin to stir from their deep slumber. The juvenile stirs gently, its long eyelashes fluttering as internal metabolic clocks respond to the subtle increase in ambient light and barometric pressure. Muscles that have remained completely relaxed for hours now experience a slow, easy wave of returning tone. With quiet grace, the young camelid shifts its weight, folding its slender leg slightly beneath its fleece-covered frame, testing the readiness of the morning. Around it, the herd awakens in a wave of synchronized movement. Mature females lift their long necks, their soft, dark eyes reflecting the faint, opal glow gathering over the mountains. Low, vibrating hums ripple softly through the crisp air, a gentle morning communication that reassures every member of the family group. The dense fleece coats, which have worked tirelessly all night to trap body heat against the plunging mountain temperatures, now begin to catch the very earliest, coolest rays of diffused dawn light. There is no rush in this awakening, only the slow, natural unfurling of life as the high plateau prepares to greet the sun. Dawn breaks across the high Andean plateau with a sudden, breathtaking quiet. Gone is the lingering warmth of the fleeting summer. In its place arrives the first true autumn chill. Across the elevated grasslands, Overnight temperatures have plummeted well below freezing, transforming morning dew into a brilliant, brittle layer of frost that coats the coarse blades of ichu grass. With every slow, deliberate step across the meadow, tiny, crisp fractures echo softly underfoot, a delicate crunch of frozen crystal giving way beneath dark, padded feet. Standing quietly near a cluster of rustling, dry shrubs, a young adult alpaca lowers its long neck to test the morning air. It exhales gently, sending a brief, warm plume of vapor swirling into the thin atmosphere. This is its first autumn morning experiencing the full, sharp transition of the high-altitude seasons. At just over 2 years old, its body is undergoing a remarkable physiological transformation. The dense, insulating fleece, grown thick over the warm months, now billows gently in the brisk mountain wind, trapping a warm layer of air close to the skin. This natural adaptation offers exceptional thermal protection against the dropping temperatures, buffering the young camelid completely from the bite of the early frost. Farther down the slope, a distant tumbling stream babbles over smooth stones, its sound carrying clearly through the crisp, undisturbed air. A soft, low humming resonates from nearby herd members, a comforting vocalization that ripples through the still dawn. The landscape is settling into a profound, tranquil rhythm, bracing calmly for the changing months ahead. That luxurious coat is a masterpiece of evolutionary design. Over the sun-drenched months of summer, millions of individual microscopic fibers have multiplied and lengthened, weaving themselves into a dense, magnificent thatch across the alpaca's body. Unlike the hollow hair of its deer relatives, the alpaca's fleece consists of semi-hollow, incredibly fine strands that possess a remarkable capacity for thermal regulation. As the crisp mountain wind sweeps across the plateau, attempting to steal away body heat, these tightly packed fibers catch and hold a microscopic layer of stagnant air right against the skin. This trapped air acts as a natural double-paned window, shielding the young adult from the dropping ambient temperatures. The crimp and waviness of the fleece further enhance its insulating properties, creating countless tiny pockets that block drafts entirely. Deep beneath this outer blanket of creamy white wool, the skin remains comfortably warm, completely unaffected by the surface chill. With every sway of the breeze, the heavy fleece ripples in slow, gentle waves, moving with a liquid grace that mimics the undulating grasses of the meadow. It is a seamless fusion of biology and environment, perfectly equipping the young camelid to thrive in the harsh high-altitude climate. High above the frost-dusted ridges, the alpine ecosystem undergoes a quiet transformation. As autumn deepens, the shallow soils of the upper plateau freeze solid, bringing an end to the rapid plant growth of summer. The nutrient-rich grasses that once carpeted the highest peaks turn brittle and pale, signaling a vital ecological cue for the resident camelids. Driven by ancient, deeply ingrained survival instincts, the herd recognizes that the high plateaus can no longer sustain them through the upcoming months of ice and snow. Movement down the mountain is not random, but a calculated, generational journey. The oldest females and seasoned herd leaders step forward, their senses attuned to the subtle contours of the landscape and the memory of sheltered paths walked years before. These matriarchs choose the most gradual descents, winding through sheltered gullies and rocky outcroppings where the biting autumn wind loses its fierce momentum. Watching the elders closely, the young adult alpaca falls into step within the migrating line. It observes how the experienced leaders pause, test the air, and select pathways that avoid treacherous scree slopes. This behavioral transmission ensures the safety of the entire family group. With each unhurried stride downward, the atmospheric pressure changes gently, and the ambient temperature rises by a few soothing degrees. The descent is accompanied by the soft, rhythmic hums of the herd, a continuous vocalization of social cohesion that echoes gently off the canyon walls. They are heading toward the lower valleys, where dense stands of native shrubs and deep alluvial soils promise a sanctuary of abundant vegetation and enduring warmth. Leaving the exposed upper ridges behind, the alpacas move in single file down the rocky slopes and into the embrace of sheltered gullies. Their specialized anatomy is uniquely suited for this demanding terrain. Unlike hard-hoofed livestock that can fracture delicate mountain soils, the alpaca's feet feature a unique combination of two toes with leathery soles and soft, flexible nails. These specialized pads act as natural shock absorbers, allowing the animals to negotiate uneven rock fields and steep inclines with quiet, effortless grace. As they step along the narrow trails, the soft pads conform seamlessly to the contours of the earth, creating almost no sound save for the gentle shifting of loose gravel. This efficient locomotion minimizes energy expenditure during the downward trek. The young adult alpaca places each foot with careful precision, matching the unhurried cadence of the matriarch ahead of it. Every stride is balanced and deliberate, a testament to the biomechanical mastery developed over generations of high-altitude living. Lower down the slope, the terrain softens. The rocky outcroppings gradually give way to rolling hillsides dotted with hardy mountain shrubs. The wind loses its sharp edge, replaced by a still, comforting warmth radiating from the earth below. The single-file line begins to loosen as the gradient levels out, allowing the animals to walk side by side. They drift naturally toward the valley floor, their soft footfalls whispering against the autumn soil as they approach the grazing grounds that await them. The herd spills gently into the protected basin, a wide and verdant pocket cradled by low-slung hills that block the harshest mountain gusts. Here, the microclimate fosters a richer abundance of life. Robust bunches of needlegrass and resilient alpine shrubs cling to the fertile soil, untouched by the biting rime frost that blankets the higher altitudes. The young adult alpaca halts near the edge of a slow-moving stream, its distant tumbling providing a soft, continuous background murmur. Lowering its head, the animal samples the autumn forage. Its dental anatomy is specialized for this exact environment, lacking upper incisors. The alpaca uses a hard dental pad and lower teeth to shear vegetation cleanly rather than ripping plants up by the roots. This delicate feeding behavior preserves the fragile root systems, ensuring the sustainability of the valley's ecosystem through the coming winter. As the morning sun climbs higher, casting a warm golden hue across the landscape, the entire herd settles into a peaceful rhythm. They spread out comfortably across the meadow, their thick fleeces rising and falling in steady, quiet breaths. Soft camelid humming drifts through the calm air, a low, resonant vibration communicating contentment and safety within the group. The dry shrubs rustle lightly as the animals nudge aside fallen leaves to reach the tender shoots beneath. Surrounded by the quiet security of the sheltered valley, the young adult rests its weight comfortably, completely at ease in the tranquil embrace of the autumn basin. Gentle humming sounds ripple softly through the family group, rising like a low, melodic tide as morning feeding commences under the warmth of the climbing sun. This resonant vocalization, a hallmark of camelid communication, reinforces social bonds and signals absolute tranquility across the meadow. Each member of the herd drifts slowly among the resilient alpine shrubs and needlegrass, completely at peace within the sheltered embrace of the basin. The crisp mountain wind is now just a distant whisper against the high ridges above, leaving the valley floor bathed in still, golden light. As the young adult alpaca selects tender shoots near the tumbling stream, its steady chewing creates a rhythmic, grounding sound that blends seamlessly with the ambient rustle of dry leaves and the babbling water. The ecosystem here pulses with quiet vitality, sustained by the gentle grazing habits of the herd. With every slow step and quiet breath, the animals settle deeper into their seasonal rhythms, embodying a profound sense of security and harmonious adaptation as the golden morning unfolds into a long, restful day. The morning sun makes its slow, deliberate ascent above the rugged eastern ridges, casting long, dramatic shadows across the sheltered valley floor. A gentle wind whispers through the branches of the golden-leafed scrub trees, carrying the crisp, earthy scent of frost-dusted ground and dry autumn grasses. Far in the distance, a solitary bird sings a clear, fleeting melody, dissolving softly into the quiet expanse. Amidst this tranquil morning landscape, a young adult alpaca stirs from its resting spot in the amber meadows. It extends its slender neck in a slow, graceful stretch, blinking sleepily into the crisp, cool air. The thick, insulating fleece, grown heavy for the approaching chill of the changing season, shimmers softly in the low-angled light. With deliberate calmness, the young camelid pushes itself up onto its slender legs, settling comfortably into the rhythm of the new day. All around, the valley awakens in hushed tones. Footsteps on dry grass rustle quietly as neighboring herd members also rise from the earth, their breath pluming faintly in the chilly atmosphere. The delicate frost coating the tips of the wild bunchgrass begins to melt under the touch of the advancing sunlight, revealing a mosaic of ochre and deep green beneath. It is a time of peaceful transition, where the lingering cold of night surrenders gently to the warmth of the golden hours ahead, setting a serene stage for the morning routine. Attention now turns to the remarkable mechanics of foraging, anchored in the unique architecture of the alpaca's muzzle. Unlike livestock that graze indiscriminately with broad teeth, the young adult approaches a low-lying shrub with delicate intention. Its mouth is specially adapted for selective browsing in fragile highland ecosystems, featuring a deeply divided upper lip. This cleft upper lip is split into independently mobile left and right lobes, covered in sensitive tactile hairs that explore the vegetation with astonishing dexterity. As the alpaca reaches toward a weathered autumn stem, the upper lip parts gracefully, parting the foliage to isolate only the tenderest green shoots and nutrient-dense seed heads. Tough, woody branches and sharp, protective thorns are bypassed with millimeter precision. Beneath this fleshy, mobile exterior, a hard dental pad on the lower jaw meets hard incisors, cleanly shearing plant material without ripping fragile root systems from the thin mountain soil. This specialized dentition and lip mobility ensure that the sparse vegetation of the valley slopes remains preserved and undamaged for future seasons. Every movement is deliberate and unhurried. The rhythmic grinding of side-to-side chewing follows each selective pluck, accompanied by the faint, comforting sounds of dry autumn leaves rustling against the animal's dense fleece. With each mouthful, the young adult extracts vital proteins and carbohydrates needed to build winter reserves, moving in quiet harmony with the natural rhythms of the waking earth. The herd moves methodically deeper into the valley, drifting like shadows beneath the golden canopy of scrub trees. Each step through the crisp autumn landscape is accompanied by the soft crunch of footsteps on dry grass and the gentle, continuous whisper of wind sweeping down from the jagged peaks. Here, the vegetation changes, giving way to hardy shrubs and remaining high-altitude grasses that have cured to a rich amber hue under the shortening sun. These resilient plants hold the key to seasonal survival. As the young adult pauses beside a weathered bush, it engages in the essential autumn work of building vital fat reserves. Every mouthful provides the dense, concentrated calories required to insulate against the approaching cold months. The feeding process is an exhibition of quiet efficiency. Using specialized dental pads on the upper jaw alongside sharp lower incisors, the alpaca strips nutritious foliage with surgical precision. There is no waste, tough stems are cleanly severed, and the most energy-rich portions of the plant are processed steadily. Around the young adult, the rest of the herd feeds in synchronized tranquility, their rhythmic jaws moving in a soothing cadence. Distant birdsong drifts across the valley floor, blending with the occasional low, soothing hum that ripples through the family group. this steady foraging is more than a simple meal. It is a vital biological preparation, anchoring the animals to the rhythms of the changing season as the golden morning slowly deepens. As individuals graze close together among the amber shrubs, subtle interactions govern their spacing and access to the best patches of autumn forage. The herd's social structure relies entirely on nuance rather than overt conflict. A slight shift in ear position or a gentle turn of the head communicates personal space requirements instantly across the quiet valley. The young adult reads these silent signals fluidly. When an older, more established female pins her ears back ever so slightly while lowering her neck, the message is clear. Without interrupting the steady cadence of the morning, the young alpaca takes a soft, deliberate step to the side, gracefully respecting the established hierarchy of the herd. Communication within the family group remains remarkably quiet. An occasional low, resonant hum ripples through the damp morning air, reassuring neighbors and maintaining calm cohesion as noses brush against frosted stems. Posture tells the rest of the story. A high head carriage signals confidence, while a slightly lowered neck demonstrates peaceful deference. These micro-adjustments in body language prevent tension, ensuring that every member can feed without disruption. By avoiding physical competition, the herd conserves valuable energy during a crucial season. The gentle wind carries the soft rustling of dry leaves as the animals shift in unison, drifting further into the valley. In this peaceful rhythm, social harmony and nourishment go hand in hand, creating an atmosphere of utter serenity beneath the morning light. Soft, rhythmic humming sounds ripple continuously through the feeding group, weaving an acoustic blanket of comfort across the frost-touched landscape. This gentle vocalization acts as an auditory anchor, reinforcing ancient familial bonds and assuring every member of their collective security within the valley. As the morning sun slowly climbs higher, casting a warm, golden glow over the amber shrubs, these soothing vibrations blend seamlessly with the whisper of the gentle wind weaving through the golden leaves. The complete absence of overt aggression creates a profound, tranquil atmosphere over the entire valley floor. There are no competing snorts or frantic rushes for resources. Instead, a deeply ingrained evolutionary tolerance prevails, allowing the alpacas to share their vast feeding grounds in a balanced state of calm awareness. Each animal remains acutely attuned to the presence of its companions, yet rests completely at ease knowing the herd's social architecture functions without friction. Distant birdsong drifts down from the upper ridges, adding a delicate layer to the ambient soundscape as footsteps on dry grass trace a slow, unhurried cadence across the terrain. Every individual moves with deliberate grace, heads dipping and rising in a synchronized dance of sustenance and peace. In this space of absolute quietude, the biological imperative to feed becomes an act of communal meditation. Nourished by the rich autumn flora and held safely within the tranquil embrace of the family group, the young adult rests gently in the moment, enveloped by the timeless, soothing rhythm of the high Andean foothills. The sun climbs higher into the crisp autumn sky, bathing the sheltered valley basin in a gentle, persistent warmth that coaxes the morning frost to fade from the meadow grass. Grazing activity slows naturally as satisfied bellies become comfortably full after hours of selective browsing. The young adult alpaca lifts its head, chewing slowly in a rhythmic lateral motion that engages its specialized three-chambered stomach in the vital first stages of rumination. With quiet intention, the young alpaca begins to look for a sheltered patch of ground, scanning the golden-leafed scrub for a comfortable spot to settle. Ruminating animals require a secure, level resting place where they can safely regurgitate and re-chew their food to extract every last nutrient. Dropping first to its knees and then folding its slender legs neatly beneath its warm fleece, the animal sinks gracefully onto the sun-warmed earth. Around it, the rest of the herd mirrors this gradual transition, lowering themselves onto the valley floor in a loose, sprawling formation. Cushioned by soft padded feet and thick winter wool, the alpacas rest in relaxed sternal recumbency, folding their necks in gentle, elegant curves. A final, contented hum reverberates softly through the quiet air, signaling the end of the morning feast. As eyelids grow heavy in the soothing midday sun, the valley slips into a deep, peaceful stillness, cradled by the gentle autumn breeze and the timeless rhythm of the resting herd. Across the vast, rolling hillsides, the landscape has donned its autumn cloak. Endless waves of amber bunchgrass ripple softly in the crisp air, catching the pale, descending light of the afternoon sun. High above, a clear sky stretches like an inverted basin of washed blue, radiating a gentle, comforting warmth over the high-altitude terrain. Moving with a quiet, unhurried grace, the alpaca herd navigates the undulating slopes. Their soft padded feet make almost no sound against the dry earth as they drift purposefully toward a familiar sanctuary. Ahead lies a weathered, protective rocky outcrop of ancient granite, standing like a steadfast guardian against the prevailing mountain winds. As the family group settles into the sun-drenched meadow sheltered by the stones, the ambient sounds of the wilderness weave a soothing backdrop. A gentle wind whispers through the golden stalks of grass, carrying the dry, earthy scent of falling leaves. Not far off, a hidden stream babbles over smooth stones, its steady, liquid murmur blending harmoniously with the occasional, distant call of a high-flying bird resting on the thermal currents. The young adult alpaca finds a comfortable spot upon the sun-warmed earth, folding its slender legs neatly beneath its body. Its thick, fleece coat, deepened by seasonal adaptation to trap heat against the approaching winter, puffs out slightly as it exhales a long, slow breath. Sheltered from the biting chill of the breeze, the tension melts away from its frame. Surrounded by the quiet presence of the herd, the animal yields completely to the profound stillness of the afternoon, basking in the tranquil embrace of the autumn day. Settled into a posture of complete sternal recumbency, the young adult rests its weight evenly upon its chest pad touching the sun-baked soil. With eyes half closed and heavy with contentment, the animal initiates a fascinating, ancient biological rhythm. Having grazed earlier upon the fibrous, frost-touched bunchgrass of the morning, it now begins the quiet work of rumination. Deep within the animal's specialized anatomy, the digestive process operates with remarkable efficiency. Unlike true ruminants with four-chambered stomachs, camelids possess a specialized three-chambered digestive system. The first and second compartments act as massive fermentation vats, breaking down tough plant cell walls through microbial action. Now, a steady, rhythmic contraction sends a small, neatly packaged portion of this vegetation, known as a cud, back up the esophagus and into the mouth. With slow, deliberate motion, the lower jaw begins to move in a wide, circular grind. 40, 50, sometimes 60 rhythmic chews soften the fibrous stalks further, mixing the plant matter thoroughly with copious amounts of saliva. This mechanical breakdown is essential for extracting every last drop of precious nutrition from the sparse autumn forage. Swallowing the remasticated cud with a gentle dip of its slender neck, the young adult immediately allows another portion to rise. The cycle repeats, smooth and hypnotic, matching the slow passage of the afternoon clouds overhead. Every motion is unhurried, born of deep instinct and evolutionary refinement. The steady, hypnotic cadence of grinding teeth creates a quiet, grounding anchor for the resting herd, filling the sheltered air with a sense of utter peace. A few paces away, the matriarch shifts her weight slightly against the warm stone, her long neck curving in an elegant, unbroken line. Within the alpaca herd, order is rarely enforced through overt dominance or friction. Instead, a language of micro-movements maintains absolute harmony across the sunlit meadow. A slight pivot of a velvety ear or a subtle adjustment in resting distance speaks volumes among kin. When a younger yearling drifts a fraction too close, seeking the same pocket of radiant solar heat, the young adult offers a quiet response. Without lifting its chest from the earth, it simply tips its chin upward by a mere 2 inches and flattens its ears backward against its crown. It is a gentle, unmistakable boundary marker, an anatomical expression of calm authority. The yearling reads these subtle postural cues instantly, halting its advance and settling a respectful 4 feet away in the amber grass. Such delicate communication preserves valuable energy as the seasons turn toward the cold months ahead. Every nuance of body language, from the soft angle of a relaxed eyelid to the neutral positioning of a long neck, reinforces the invisible ties binding the family group together. There is no tension in the air, only a profound, collective understanding that flows through the herd like a slow-moving current. In this sheltered mountain niche, surrounded by the rustle of falling leaves and the distant murmur of the stream, peace is maintained through stillness, and security is shared by all. All around the sheltered clearing, the mountain afternoon composes its own quiet melody. A gentle, sun-warmed wind glides down the rolling hillsides, sweeping through the knee-high amber bunchgrass with a long, whispering sigh. Each dry stalk bows in unison, creating a soft, rustling wave of gold that rolls across the meadow like water over stone. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic sound, perfectly attuned to the slow beat of the resting herd's collective heart. From somewhere down the slope, hidden beneath a canopy of gray-green scrub, the steady, liquid murmur of a flowing stream threads through the air. Its cool, tumbling voice rises and falls on the breeze, a constant, silvery lullaby that smooths the edges of the day. Overhead, high in the pale blue sky, a lone raptor drifts upon a thermal, silent and distant, punctuating the stillness with a profound sense of vast, open space. Closer still, within the warm hollow of the rocks, another sound joins the symphony. As the young adult alpaca shifts its weight against the earth, the dense, crimped fibers of its winter fleece slide against one another with a muted, papery hush. Each follicle of hollow core guard hair and fine undercoat rubs together, releasing trapped air in a soft, muffled sigh. This luxurious double coat, evolved over millennia to trap body heat against the biting chill of high-altitude autumns, rustles like dry silk with every micro-movement. Lulled by the whispering grass, the bubbling water, and the comforting weight of heavy wool settling into the soil, the young adult closes its eyes halfway. The sounds of the mountain blur into a seamless, protective blanket of sound, wrapping the resting herd in an enduring, tranquil embrace. A profound stillness settles over the sunlit meadow as the afternoon deepens. Across the sheltered clearing, the entire alpaca herd drifts into a state of absolute, restorative peace. Their heavy bodies grow completely motionless, conforming to the contours of the earth in a masterclass of physical ease. Half-closed eyes soften their amber gazes, hooded by long, dark lashes that flutter only once in a great while against the cool air. In this high-altitude refuge, this stillness is not merely resting. It is a profound biological surrender to absolute security. The young adult alpaca's breathing deepens and slows, falling into a steady, rhythmic cadence. With every inhalation, its ribcage expands beneath the thick, insulating layers of fiber, and with every long, slow exhale, the tension of the day melts completely away. The heart rate drops to a gentle, resting tempo, perfectly synchronized with the tranquil pulse of the mountain world around them. Because alpacas are prey animals by heritage, true deep relaxation is a rare and precious gift, requiring an unwavering trust in both their environment and their herd mates. Yet here, surrounded by the protective embrace of ancient stone and the quiet watchfulness of elder family members, vigilance dissolves. Heads rest heavily on outstretched necks, and long ears tilt backward in total repose, no longer scanning the horizon for sudden shadows. Every muscle fiber relaxes, allowing the dense fleece to drape gracefully against the soil like a blanket of spun gold. In this quiet sanctuary, suspended between the whispering amber grass and the pale autumn sky, the world slows to a gentle pause. There is nowhere else to be, and nothing else to do, save for breathing in the quiet comfort of the fading afternoon. As the afternoon begins to lengthen, a subtle shift touches the mountain meadow. The brilliant, sunlit gold of the high-altitude sunshine softens into a gentle, honeyed warmth, casting long and graceful shadows across the amber bunchgrass. With this slow descent of the sun, the ambient temperature begins its gradual decline, dropping by a few quiet degrees as the thin mountain air surrenders its daytime heat. Sensing this atmospheric transition, the resting alpacas stir ever so slightly. Across the sheltered clearing, ears twitch forward from their positions of total repose, and dark eyes blink open to greet the amber glow of the advancing twilight. This drop in temperature acts as a biological cue, waking the herd from their deep afternoon slumber and preparing their metabolisms for the cooler evening hours ahead. The thick, dense fleece that draped so softly moments before now proves its worth as a masterclass in seasonal adaptation. Each hollow fiber traps an insulating layer of warm air close to the skin, shielding the young adult from the crisp breath of the oncoming evening. Stretching its long neck, the young alpaca rises in a fluid, unhurried motion, shaking out its heavy coat to settle the fleece back into place. Around the meadow, the rest of the family group follows suit, shifting their weight and stretching weary limbs. There is no urgency in these movements, only a calm, synchronized readiness for the next phase of the day. The fading light paints the western ridges in shades of lavender and rose, wrapping the peaceful valley in an envelope of quiet comfort as the day gracefully yields to the approaching dusk. High upon the Andean Plateau, the late autumn sun slips beneath the western ridge, leaving behind a deepening wash of indigo and violet. As the ambient temperature plummets, a dense, low-lying mist begins to drift silently across the frost-tipped bunchgrass. This atmospheric moisture, born where chilled mountain air meets warmer valley currents, rolls in heavy, slow-moving waves. The young adult alpaca pauses his slow foraging, lifting his long neck to test the changing air. His thick fleece, a dense double coat evolved specifically for these extreme high-altitude thermal fluctuations, begins to trap the rising chill, preparing his body for the coming freeze. With the arrival of the fog, the vast landscape undergoes a profound transformation. The jagged, imposing contours of the distant peaks soften, swallowed entirely by the encroaching gray veil. Sound behaves differently in this thick, damp air. The usual acoustic carry of the plateau is muffled, replaced by an intimate, quiet world where the rustling of dry, dormant grass beneath padded feet sounds remarkably close. Gentle mountain winds whisper through the plateau, carrying the quiet breath of the high peaks downward. The mist weaves between the scattered boulders and low-growing shrubs, casting long, blurred shadows that stretch and fade into the gloaming. It is a natural transition from the vivid exposure of daylight into the protective dimness of evening. In this muted landscape, every sharp edge is smoothed away, inviting a deep, settling stillness over the entire basin as the alpine world prepares for rest. As the gray veil thickens, a subtle shift ripples through the scattered family group. Driven by ancient, hardwired instincts of safety and thermoregulation, the alpacas cease their leisurely grazing. In the dimming light, visual boundaries blur, prompting the animals to seek the reassurance of close proximity. Communication across the thinning space relies on quiet, understated cues. A matriarch twitches her velvety ears backward, releasing a low, resonant hum a soft vocalization that vibrates gently in the damp mountain air. This acoustic beacon draws a responding murmur from the young adult, whose own internal social hierarchy place him naturally within the shifting dynamics of the collective. One by one, the silhouettes of the herd begin to drift inward, converging toward a common center. Subtle body language orchestrates the slow movement. Necks stretch forward, and soft, padded footfalls rustle the dry grass as individual alpacas close the distance. There is no rushing, only a fluid, deliberate migration toward unity. By narrowing the physical spaces between them, the herd begins to form a compact, cohesive cluster. This social cohesion is a vital evolutionary strategy. Clustering drastically reduces the surface area exposed to the biting wind and enables the group to share ambient body heat. Within this growing formation, the edges of individual bodies blur against the fog. The young adult steps carefully into the shifting mass, his movements unhurried and calm. As the surrounding forms press gently shoulder to shoulder, the collective body temperature begins to rise, creating a warm, protected microclimate at the heart of the herd. Rather than immediately sinking into the center with the others, the young adult pauses at the edge of the tightening formation. Standing tall on the perimeter, he serves a crucial evolutionary role for the family group. In the vulnerable window between daylight and complete darkness, vigilance is paramount. His upright, almond-shaped ears swivel independently, capturing every subtle nuance of the environment: the whisper of the mountain wind through the bunch grass, the muffled roll of the mist, and the distant, shifting sounds of the high-altitude ecosystem. Biologically equipped for this atmospheric watch, his large brown eyes, featuring horizontal pupils that afford a nearly 300-degree field of vision, sweep the darkening landscape without requiring him to turn his head. He stands motionless, a sentinel anchored by instinct. This temporary outpost duty is a cornerstone of herd dynamics, offering protection while the rest of the family transitions safely into their rest state. His dense, insulating fleece, honed by seasonal adaptation to withstand sub-zero nocturnal temperatures, puffs slightly against the damp chill. For a few quiet minutes, he surveys the gray expanse where earth and fog merge. Sensing no threat, his posture softens. The momentary tension in his neck dissolves, and a deep, rhythmic sigh escapes his nostrils. Satisfied that the basin is tranquil and secure, he takes a final, deliberate step inward, sliding gracefully into the warmth of the slumbering cluster. Once integrated into the heart of the resting group, the young adult begins the physical descent into rest. He shifts his weight forward, executing the classic posture of camelids known as sternal recumbency. With a fluid, unhurried motion, he lowers his chest toward the cold, damp earth, bending his knees and neatly tucking his slender legs completely underneath his body. This specialized anatomical arrangement keeps his sensitive joints cushioned and prevents direct contact with the freezing ground. His thick autumn fleece, having reached its maximum seasonal density, billows softly around him like a heavy woolen quilt. This remarkable biological insulation traps a layer of warm air near his skin while effectively sealing out the rising mist. By folding his limbs inward beneath his torso, he minimizes his exposed surface area, a vital thermoregulatory strategy for retaining precious body heat throughout the frigid night ahead. Around him, the other members of the herd settle in a synchronized cascade of quiet movement. Necks stretch out momentarily before curling back in restful arcs, and long-lashed eyelids grow heavy. Surrounded by family on all sides, the young adult rests his sternum firmly against the earth, sharing and receiving ambient warmth in a tightly knit community. The gentle, rhythmic hums of contentment ripple softly through the cluster, blending seamlessly with the low whisper of the mountain wind. Tension dissolves from every muscle as the final contours of the high plateau vanish into the gathering shadows. Within this tightly bound assembly, a profound thermodynamic transformation takes place. High upon the Andean Plateau, where autumn temperatures plummet rapidly after sunset, survival depends on collective physics. By pressing their warm bodies shoulder to shoulder, the alpacas create a communal microclimate that defies the bitter mountain chill. This behavior, known as social thermoregulation, drastically reduces the total surface area exposed to the elements. Each animal acts as a thermal barrier for its neighbor, shielding the group from the biting drafts that sweep down from the glacial peaks. The trapped air circulating between their dense layers of fleece warms incrementally, shared freely among the herd. Even the cold mist, settling heavily over the basin, struggles to penetrate the outer perimeter of this living fortress. At the center, where the young adult rests, the ambient temperature rises measurably above the freezing air outside. His body no longer needs to expend excess metabolic energy to combat the frost. Instead, the collective heat generated by the cluster circulates gently throughout the sleeping formation, creating a cocoon of restorative warmth. Through millions of years of evolutionary refinement, this simple act of gathering has mastered the harsh realities of altitude, turning vulnerability into profound security. Every steady, synchronized breath deepens the shared warmth, sealing the herd in a peaceful, resilient slumber as the quiet night takes full possession of the mountain basin. Above the mountain basin, the last pale amber streaks of daylight dissolve completely into the deep indigo embrace of the night sky. The fading sun surrenders the horizon to a profound twilight shadow, painting the rolling contours of the high plateau in hushed, velvety tones. Distant peaks, once sharply etched against the clouds, melt softly into the gathering dark. Complete stillness settles over the landscape. The gentle mountain wind slows to a mere whisper, brushing softly across the dry, frost-tipped grasses without disturbing the tranquility below. Within the sanctuary of the herd, time seems to stretch and suspend itself. The rhythmic, slow breathing of dozens of resting alpacas creates a low, soothing cadence that blends seamlessly with the quiet sighs of the plateau. Encased within their dense fleece, the animals rest in total peace. Their steady inhalations and exhalations rise and fall in a synchronized tempo, releasing soft, contented hums that fade gently into the cold air. The young adult breathes deeply, feeling the restorative warmth circulate within the heart of the sleeping cluster. Every tension leaves his muscles as his body relaxes entirely into the earth. Overhead, the vast Andean stars begin to emerge, piercing the dark expanse like scattered diamonds, keeping silent watch over the resting valley. The autumn chill yields entirely to the quiet resilience of the huddled herd. Cradled by the ancient rhythms of high-altitude life, the plateau rests under a blanket of starlight, drifting deeper and deeper into an unhurried, restorative slumber. As midnight claims the high mountain basin, the ambient temperature plummets rapidly, turning the breathing air into a delicate dance of freezing mist. A profound, bone-chilling frost begins to settle over the high-altitude grasses, and far above, the canopy of stars flickers in the thin, crystal atmosphere. High in the Andes, the elements test the endurance of every living creature. Yet nature has equipped the native camelids with extraordinary physiological tools for survival. Within the shelter of the wind-protected valley, the herd gathers close, responding to ancient instincts that dictate safety and warmth in numbers. The young adult alpaca shifts its weight carefully, tucking its slender legs neatly beneath its warm body. It settles firmly into sternal recumbency, a specialized resting posture that minimizes exposed surface area, conserves vital body heat, and shields sensitive joints from the cold. Frozen ground. Surrounding the young animal, the rest of the family group assumes the same compact formation. They rest shoulder to shoulder, creating a microclimate of shared body heat that blunts the harsh edges of the alpine freeze. Faint, steamy plumes form softly with every exhale in the sub-zero air, disappearing quickly into the vast night. The ambient sounds of the mountain are subtle and subdued. The occasional light crackle of forming frost upon the stems of dry shrubs, and the distant, haunting whistle of the frigid mountain wind brushing harmlessly across the higher ridges. Resting quietly, the young alpaca closes its large, dark eyes, surrendering to the deep, restorative stillness of the mountain night. Against the creeping chill, the young alpaca wears a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. The thick, multi-layered fleece grown throughout the temperate months serves as a supreme thermal barrier against the harsh elements. Unlike the hollow hairs of some northern mammals, alpaca fibers possess microscopic air pockets that trap body heat close to the skin while effectively blocking the bitter exterior cold. This dense outer coat repels the sharp touch of the mountain frost, transforming the animal's silhouette into a soft, rounded mound of natural insulation. As the autumn air grows heavier and colder, these specialized fibers draw together, enhancing their capacity to retain warmth. The crimp and fineness of each individual strand create a complex labyrinth that resists airflow, preventing precious calories of body heat from escaping into the freezing night. Protected by this dense canopy of fiber, the skin maintains a stable, comfortable microclimate entirely independent of the plummeting temperatures outside. The wind may whistle across the high ridges, but its penetrating bite is neutralized long before it reaches the animal's skin. Safe within this personal sanctuary of warmth, the young alpaca rests in profound comfort, its breathing remaining steady and unhurried as the quiet hours drift by. Beneath this protective woolen armor, another marvel of survival unfolds silently in the dark. Deep within the young alpaca's torso, a specialized three-chambered digestive tract operates as a steady, biological furnace. Unlike true ruminants with 4 compartments, camelids possess a modified system that breaks down tough, fibrous autumn grasses with extraordinary efficiency. As the animal rests in the stillness of the mountain basin, microbial fermentation proceeds without pause through the long night. Billions of beneficial microorganisms diligently ferment the day's foraging harvest, a complex biochemical breakdown that continually releases energy. This continuous process of microbial digestion acts as a natural internal hearth. The metabolic heat generated by these industrious microbes radiates steadily outward, warming the blood circulating through the core and extremities. It is a slow, reliable combustion that requires no physical exertion, turning the very food the alpaca grazed upon into a quiet, enduring source of thermal comfort. While the frost crystallizes upon the surrounding bunch grasses, the internal temperature of the young herbivore remains remarkably stable and warm. Soft, muffled sounds of rumination occasionally ripple through the quiet night air as small boluses of food are quietly brought back up to be gently rechewed. Each slow, rhythmic movement of the jaw aids the digestive cycle, feeding more fibrous material into the fermentation chambers below. This constant internal warming works in perfect harmony with the fleece insulation outside, enveloping the resting animal in a dual shield against the elements. Wrapped in this profound tranquility, the alpaca drifts deeper into rest, sustained by the quiet chemistry of life burning steadily through the freezing autumn hours. Surrounding the young adult, the rest of the herd settles into a profound stillness within the sheltered embrace of the basin. The animals fold their slender legs beneath their bodies, lowering themselves into a compact, unified posture known as sternal recumbency. By pressing close together in a protective circle, they share their collective body heat, minimizing their exposed surface area to the biting mountain air. This cooperative arrangement creates a shared microclimate, buffering each individual against the chill of the descending midnight temperatures. In this sheltered unity, their respiration slows to a remarkably even, steady rhythm. Inhaling the crisp, freezing atmosphere, their lungs expand gently before releasing soft, warm exhalations that form faint, fleeting plumes in the starlight. Every breath is measured and deep, reflecting a profound state of physiological relaxation. The autonomic nervous system shifts dominance toward rest and conservation, lowering the heart rate and allowing the metabolism to function with exquisite efficiency. Faint, harmonious sounds of soft breathing blend with the ambient crackle of distant frost forming on the mountain shrubs. There is no tension in the herd, only the steady, synchronized cadence of life enduring the elements through cooperation and calm. As the hours drift onward toward the first pale hints of dawn, the resting animals remain anchored in this tranquil formation. Their bodies act as a single, resilient entity, absorbing the cold night and transforming it into quiet, shared endurance. Wrapped in absolute peace, the herd rests deeply, cradled by the timeless silence of the high Andes. Deep, nocturnal slumber does not mean complete disconnection from the high-altitude world. Even within the profound, restorative depths of rest, the young adult alpaca maintains a subconscious state of low-energy vigilance. Sensory awareness persists softly beneath heavy, relaxed eyelids. A pair of finely tuned ears twitches involuntarily, pivoting backward to capture the faint rustling of distant shrubbery stirred by the passing breeze, filtering the sound for any sign of potential danger. This low-level watchfulness is distributed collectively across the entire herd. While the deep internal fermentation of the three-chambered stomach quietly maintains their core temperature, the animals remain softly attuned to one another. If a single alpaca shifts its weight or adjusts its tucked neck, the subtle movement ripples gently through the formation, reassuring every resting member without breaking the nocturnal peace. The autonomic nervous system carefully balances this quiet alertness with deep physical repair, ensuring that the animal stays responsive to its environment while expending almost no active energy. There is a comforting, ancient rhythm to this nocturnal state, a delicate interplay between total relaxation and gentle, effortless awareness. The freezing mountain air continues to brush against the dense, protective fleece, yet the chill remains entirely external, failing to penetrate the warm sanctuary created by the gathered group. As the long hours drift imperceptibly toward the first pale hints of dawn, the herd rests in this state of unburdened suspension. The silent watchfulness holds the darkness at bay, wrapping the mountain basin in an unbroken blanket of serene, nocturnal tranquility. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the profound blackness of the mountain basin begins to thin. High above the jagged crests of the surrounding peaks, the sky shifts from a heavy ink blue to a vast pale indigo. The stars lose their sharp, diamond brilliance, softening against the brightening expanse as the earliest, hesitant breath of dawn approaches the highlands. Within the compact circle of the herd, the resting young adult feels the gradual atmospheric transition. The intense, crystalline frost that coated the ground all night now clings heavily to the outer tips of the dense fleece, turning each protective fiber into a tiny column of frozen crystal. Yet inside this thick, natural insulation, the microclimate remains completely undisturbed. The steady, slow-burning fermentation within the multi-chambered stomach continues its tireless work, radiating a gentle, internal warmth that comfortably sustains the animal against the retreating chill of the autumn night. The rhythmic, synchronized breathing of the group alters just a fraction. Lungs expand and contract in a slightly deeper, more deliberate cadence, matching the awakening rhythm of the high-altitude world. Soft, warm plumes of breath still curl faintly into the freezing air, but they now dissipate into a sky tinged with the faintest wash of gray light. Ears that remained softly vigilant throughout the dark hours now pivot more purposefully, catching the morning breeze as it rolls down the slopes. Without rising yet, The alpaca blinks open heavy eyes, taking in the sharpening silhouettes of the rocky basin. The long hours of nocturnal suspension gently dissolve, leaving the rested herd quietly prepared to greet the frost-bound dawn. High upon the sweeping expanse of the Andean Plateau, winter claims the landscape in a hush of absolute stillness. The pre-dawn hours belong to a profound, crystalline quiet, broken only by the gentle whisper of a mountain wind drifting down from distant, jagged peaks. Softly, almost imperceptibly, fresh flakes of snow begin to descend, dusting the resilient tussocks of dry ichu grass and crowning the ancient, weathered rocky outcrops with crowns of white. Beneath this gathering wintry veil, the high-altitude world rests in a deep, restorative slumber. The temperature plummets far below freezing, yet across the frost-dusted earth, a mature adult alpaca remains entirely undisturbed. It lies nestled deep within the heart of the herd, completely enveloped in the tranquil safety of collective presence. The camelids have settled in sternal recumbency, folding their slender legs beneath their bodies to rest their weight evenly upon the snow-chilled ground. In this tight, communal formation, the herd creates a powerful thermal mass. They press gently against one another, sharing precious body heat that wards off the biting chill of the high-altitude dawn. A faint, rhythmic hum, a low, resonant vibration of contentment passes softly through the resting group, harmonizing with the muted, distant creaking of an ancient glacier miles away. As the gentle snowflakes settle over the plateau, delicate plumes of warm respiration rise slowly from the resting alpaca's nostrils, meeting the freezing air and vanishing into the starry dark. The animal's heavy winter fleece receives the falling snow like a natural quilt, catching the frozen crystals upon its surface without allowing a single drop of moisture to penetrate. Wrapped in this serene isolation, the plateau waits patiently for the first pale promise of morning light. At the heart of this enduring survival lies a true biological marvel: the alpaca's dual-coated fleece. Unlike the wool of many other mountain ungulates, alpaca fiber is remarkably free of lanolin, yet it possesses an intricate architecture specifically engineered for extreme cold. As the mature adult alpaca rests, thousands of microscopic hollow guard hairs stand proud across its back, acting as a durable outer shield. These coarser outer fibers deflect the gentle descent of falling snowflakes and block the sharp, icy drafts sweeping across the plateau. Beneath this protective canopy lies a dense, ultra-fine undercoat, woven with natural crimp and elasticity. This crimped fleece traps countless tiny pockets of still air against the skin. Because trapped air is a poor conductor of heat, it forms a sophisticated thermal barrier, sealing the animal's natural core temperature safely inside. The alpaca's resting metabolism slows just enough to conserve energy, relying entirely on this living insulation to maintain thermal equilibrium without shivering. Even as the ground beneath the herd drops to sub-zero temperatures, the heat never escapes. The fleece works silently, continuously, reflecting body warmth back toward the source while remaining completely dry on the outside. Wrapped in layers of specialized anatomy, the alpaca drifts deeper into tranquility, perfectly attuned to the demanding rhythms of the high Andean winter. Surrounding the resting adult alpaca, the rest of the herd mirrors its posture in a profound display of communal survival. Tucked tightly together on the frozen ground, the camelids maintain sternal recumbency, resting directly upon their folded legs with chests and bellies low to the earth. This deliberate formation minimizes their individual surface area exposed to the frigid mountain air. Shoulder to shoulder, flank to flank, the animals press inward. This close physical proximity creates a shared thermal mass, a collective microclimate where body heat radiates outward from each individual and envelopes the entire group. By pooling their warmth in this tight huddle, the alpacas drastically reduce individual energy expenditure during the harshest, coldest hours of the pre-dawn night. In this synchronized resting state, metabolic rates settle into a gentle, restorative rhythm. The need for internal heat generation through muscular shivering is nearly eliminated, sparing precious caloric reserves when foraging is scarce. Instead, thermodynamic physics takes over the work of the night. The outer fleece layers of adjacent herd members interlock, forming a continuous, insulating blanket of trapped air that stretches across the entire huddle. A soft, rhythmic respiration hum rises from the cluster, visible as faint plumes of warm breath drifting upward into the freezing air. Resting in this quiet unity, protected by both specialized personal anatomy and the comforting embrace of the herd, the animals endure the coldest depths of the winter darkness, resting safely as one unified organism upon the high plateau. High above the sleeping valley, the deepest hour of the night begins to yield. A subtle shift moves through the freezing air, and within the protective center of the huddle, the mature adult alpaca stirs. Its long neck lifts just an inch from the frozen earth, and large, dark eyes blink slowly against the dark. There is no urgency in the movement, only the quiet, natural transition from deep slumber to waking consciousness. The alpaca's pupils adjust to the dim surroundings, taking in the pale outlines of resting companions pressed close beside it. With every gentle, rhythmic exhale, a soft plume of warm vapor drifts upward into the crisp atmosphere, instantly vanishing into the frosted air. This steady, unhurried respiration is a quiet testament to life persisting against the sub-zero temperatures of the high-altitude plateau. Inside the resting animal, physiological systems begin their gentle morning adjustment. The liver releases a subtle surge of glucose to gently elevate internal energy production, preparing the body for the coming day without disturbing the profound stillness of the moment. The nervous system shifts from the heavy conservation of nocturnal sleep into a state of quiet, receptive awareness. The surrounding herd remains motionless, folded neatly upon the snow-dusted ground, sharing a lingering warmth that defies the bitter mountain wind. For now, the world holds its breath in the pre-dawn hush, suspended between the quiet dignity of the long winter night and the soft, silent promise of a new morning breaking slowly over the high Andean peaks. High above the plateau, the deep indigo of the pre-dawn sky begins to soften, yielding gracefully to a wash of delicate violet. The stars, once sharp and diamond bright against the stratosphere, gently fade into the pale expanse of the upper atmosphere. A silent alchemy of light transforms the horizon as the first indirect rays of the sun strike the jagged summit of the highest peak, igniting the ancient snowpack in a brilliant, crystalline white glare. This pristine morning illumination spills down the mountain slopes, washing over the sheltered basin where the herd rests. The sudden influx of photonic energy casts long, indigo shadows across the drifts, while catching the individual contours of the resting camelids. Each heavy, dual-layered fleece becomes a landscape of its own, where millions of translucent fibers catch the low-angled light, glittering as though dusted with powdered diamond. The mature adult alpaca remains grounded in sternal recumbency, its body absorbing the initial warmth of the returning day. The dense crimp of its winter coat traps these nascent thermal rays, creating a micro-greenhouse effect right at the surface of the skin. Every contour of the thick blanket of fiber is starkly revealed against the snow, shimmering with a soft, ethereal halo of frosted vapor. Around the herd, the landscape is utterly transformed, shifting from a realm of formless shadow into a breathtaking vista of pure white and gold. The distant glacial ice reflects the dawn, sending a faint, echoing chime through the rarefied air. Resting in this radiant stillness, the alpaca blinks peacefully, bathed in the tranquil promise of a serene alpine morning. For a few quiet moments longer, the herd remains perfectly settled, honoring the profound stillness that governs the frozen high-altitude world. There is no sudden rush to rise, no eager scrambling against the morning chill. Instead, the alpacas linger in a state of tranquil patience, their collective metabolism humming at a steady, efficient baseline as they conserve their vital energy reserves for the day ahead. The mature adult alpaca rests its weight evenly upon its cushioned chest pads, drawing a slow, deliberate breath. A gentle plume of warm vapor rises from its nostrils, dissolving seamlessly into the crisp mountain air. Around it, the other members of the family group mirror this peaceful stance, their interlocking bodies forming an enduring fortress of shared warmth. They are anchored to the earth, entirely attuned to the subtle rhythms of the high plateau. As the golden sunlight slowly descends the slopes, spilling across the valley floor, the shadows begin to shorten. The brilliant light warms the uppermost tips of the dual-coated fleece, gently melting the delicate crystals of frost that formed during the long night. This gradual shift in temperature signals an unspoken transition, a gentle invitation to stir. Soon, the herd will rise to begin their slow, meandering journey across the snow-dusted pastures in search of hardy alpine grasses. But for now, held in the cradle of the rising dawn, the alpacas simply rest, completely at peace within the quiet, breathing heart of winter. High above the timberline, the first golden fingers of the winter sun reach across the jagged mountain crests. They spill down the steep alpine basin, transforming the shadowed nightscape into a dazzling, endless sea of white and diamond-bright ice. Amidst this frozen stillness, the mature herd leader stirs. With slow, deliberate grace, he unfolds his long limbs, rising from the snowpack where he spent the freezing night. His heavy, multi-layered fleece, a remarkable masterpiece of evolutionary insulation, retains his body heat, shielding him from the sub-zero dawn. He tests the stability of the crust with a single, padded foot. Unlike the sharp hooves of other ungulates, an alpaca's foot features 2 toes with leathery pads and curved toenails, designed to grip rocky terrain without unnecessarily breaking the fragile snow crust or sinking too deeply into the drifts. As if taking a cue from their experienced guide, the surrounding herd begins to awaken. One by one, soft-eyed shapes rise from the snow. They shake their dense coats, sending tiny cascades of sparkling frost fluttering into the crisp morning air. A low, gentle hum passes quietly between them, a familiar vocalization that reinforces herd bonds and signals a safe transition into the new day. High above, a distant mountain bird calls out across the valleys, echoing softly against the rock faces. Around them, the warming rays begin their slow, quiet work, coaxing the very first drops of meltwater to trickle down from the sun-kissed boulders. The crisp morning air is still and peaceful, holding the promise of a bright, slow-moving winter day on the high slopes. Drifting across the quiet basin, a gentle mountain wind carries the faint, crisp scent of ice and stone. The herd leader moves toward a slight ridge where the snow lies thinner, guided by instinct to the sustenance hidden below. Here, the art of winter foraging begins. An alpaca's muzzle is an instrument of remarkable sensitivity. Covered in tactile whiskers and velvety skin, it serves as a delicate probe against the cold. The mature adult presses his soft nose to the surface, gently brushing aside the loose, powdery snow with sweeping, side-to-side motions. He uncovers a patch of dormant bunch grasses and resilient alpine lichens clinging tightly to the frozen earth, preserved in a state of quiet dormancy beneath the winter blanket. Without upper incisors, alpacas feed with a specialized dental pad and a precise nibbling motion that takes only the tender tips of vegetation, leaving the roots safely buried to regenerate when spring finally arrives. This careful grazing preserves the fragile alpine ecosystem, ensuring the high-altitude pastures return year after year. Once gathered, The coarse, fibrous winter fare passes into the alpaca's specialized three-chambered stomach. Inside these fermentation chambers, a complex microbiome breaks down tough cellulose with impressive efficiency, extracting every last calorie of warmth and energy needed to endure the mountain chill. Younger members of the herd watch closely, stepping in to nibble at the newly cleared patches as the mature leader guides them calmly onward, step by unhurried step. A few steps behind the experienced leader, the younger members of the herd fall into a careful, single-file procession. They tread precisely where the older alpaca has already broken the crust, conserving their own precious energy in the deep drifts. The quiet rhythm of their journey is punctuated only by the soft, rhythmic crunch of hooves upon the frozen snow and the occasional, distant call of a high-altitude bird riding the thermals above. Leadership in this harsh winter landscape requires more than just finding food. It demands constant, subtle vigilance. The mature adult pauses atop a windswept ridge where natural atmospheric drafts have scoured the ground clear of heavy accumulation. Without making a sound, he communicates his intentions through the language of the herd. A simple shift of his long ears, swiveling backward to check the spacing of the trailing youths, maintains quiet order and steady forward momentum. As the morning sun warms the crisp air, tiny droplets of water begin to form on the rocky outcroppings, falling with a gentle, hypnotic drip into the melting snow below. The younger alpacas observe the mature male closely, absorbing the geography of the slopes with every unhurried stride. They learn which contours of the mountain trap the snow and which ridges offer safe, energy-efficient pathways across the basin. Surrounded by the vast, tranquil expanse of white, the herd moves as one unified presence, wrapped in a peaceful, muffled hum of quiet contentment as they navigate the winter world together. With every deliberate pace forward, the mature alpaca relies on a remarkable anatomical design perfectly suited for these rugged, snow-draped elevations. Beneath his dense, insulating fleece, his feet are fundamentally different from those of traditional hoofed mountain dwellers. Each foot features 2 toes equipped with strong, curving toenails and, most importantly, a thick, resilient leathery pad on the underside. Instead of sharp, pointed hooves that act like tiny picks, breaking through the icy winter crust and disturbing the fragile alpine soil beneath, these soft pads distribute his substantial weight evenly across the surface. As he moves from the wind-swept ridge down toward a shallow snowdrift, his foot pads compress gently against the frozen terrain. This natural cushioning grants him exceptional traction on slippery patches of ice and jagged, partially hidden rocks, allowing him to traverse the steep basin with quiet confidence. The pressure-relieving design of the padded foot also preserves the delicate mountain ecology, leaving only faint, shallow impressions in the snow rather than deep gouges in the thawing earth. Behind him, the younger herd members benefit directly from this specialized anatomy. Their own soft padded feet follow the leader's exact footprints, gripping the packed snow securely. As they navigate a particularly slick slope where the morning warmth has glazed the surface with a thin layer of crystal, the superiority of the pad becomes clear. There is no slipping, no unnecessary expenditure of muscular energy, only a steady, balanced procession. The quiet mechanics of their movement blend seamlessly into the stillness of the high-altitude morning, keeping the herd safe and secure upon the frozen ground. As the morning sun climbs higher into the pale blue sky, its warming rays begin to take the sharpest edge off the freezing air. The active period of winter foraging gradually slows, giving way to a tranquil pause upon a broad, sun-drenched slope. Here, sheltered from the gentle mountain wind by a natural outcropping of ancient rock, the herd comes together in a peaceful, quiet gathering. The mature adult stands serenely at the center, basking in the soothing solar warmth that penetrates deep into his dense, insulating fleece. His stomach, A complex and specialized chamber of 4 compartments begins the quiet, rhythmic work of rumination. With a slow and deliberate motion of his jaw, he brings up the fibrous, dormant grasses he gathered earlier from beneath the snow, chewing his cud with a steady, hypnotic cadence. All around him, the younger herd members settle gently onto the sun-warmed earth, folding their legs beneath their soft bodies. The crisp, echoing sounds of the morning give way to a profound stillness, punctuated only by the occasional soft, muffled humming of contentment passing softly between family members. Nearby, the first droplets of meltwater begin to trace slow, glistening paths down a lingering patch of snow, dripping steadily into the porous soil below. Bathed in the golden light of late morning, the entire basin exhales. The struggles of navigating the frozen crust and uncovering buried vegetation fade into memory, replaced by an atmosphere of complete serenity. Eyes grow heavy and half-closed against the brilliant glare, inviting a deep, restorative calm to settle gently over the resting herd. As the morning winds begin to completely subside, a profound stillness settles over the high alpine basin. The alpacas cluster gently together, their thick winter fleeces touching in a shared warmth that radiates outward against the crisp mountain air. The mature adult remains the steadfast anchor of this peaceful gathering, his slow, rhythmic chewing blending seamlessly into the quiet background. This continuous rumination is essential for processing fibrous winter vegetation, allowing his specialized digestive tract to extract vital, slow-burning energy while he rests. Around him, long shadows begin to stretch softly across the melting patches of snow, marking the gentle transition toward the afternoon. The younger herd members let out occasional, low-pitched murmurs of contentment, their breathing deep and even as their heavy eyelids begin to droop. The sharp sounds of morning hooves crunching on crusty snow are replaced entirely by the soothing, ambient rhythm of dripping meltwater and the faint, sweet scent of damp earth warming beneath the sunlight. Every member of the herd relaxes into the sun-baked basin, their muscles releasing the last remnants of morning exertion. This daily resting routine is a crucial adaptation for surviving the harsh mountain winter, conserving precious metabolic energy during the coldest months of the year. Wrapped in the secure embrace of family and basking in the final golden glow of the late morning sun, the alpacas drift further into a state of deep, restorative tranquility. The mountain world slows down around them, holding its breath in a gentle pause before the long, peaceful stillness of the afternoon takes hold. Across the high-altitude plateaus, the midwinter wind sweeps in relentless, freezing gusts. The biting air demands a high metabolic cost for any creature moving against it. Yet, high in the Andes, evolution has provided ancient survival instincts. Leading the herd with slow, deliberate steps, a mature alpaca navigates the frosted terrain, seeking the familiar refuge of a deep rocky gorge. This migration out of the wind is a masterclass in behavioral thermoregulation. By moving away from the exposed plains and descending into the geological cleft, the herd utilizes the surrounding ecosystem's natural microclimates. Towering stone walls rise on either side, acting as a massive thermal barrier that deflects the scouring gale above and shields the animals from convective heat loss. As the herd steps deeper into the canyon, the harsh whistling of the wind softens into a distant, muffled sigh. The ambient temperature here is subtly warmer, preserved by the earth. Walking with the quiet grace typical of camelids, the lead adult pauses, assessing the safety of the stone-strewn floor. Social hierarchy dictates the pace. The mature animals guide the family group with calm authority, ensuring everyone finds a place protected from the elements. The ground underfoot is dry and scattered with sheltering boulders that have absorbed hours of weak winter sunlight. Here, away from the biting chill, the frantic urgency of foraging fades. The alpacas begin to slow their pace, their heavy winter coats swaying slightly with each measured step. They have reached the sanctuary of the gorge, where the afternoon can unfold in absolute, protected tranquility. Dark volcanic rock faces line the sanctuary, absorbing the pale, low-angled winter sunlight throughout the morning hours. These ancient basalt formations act as giant thermal batteries, slowly storing the sun's gentle energy and radiating it outward as the afternoon progresses. This phenomenon creates a stable microclimate within the gorge, where the ambient air remains significantly warmer than the wind-swept plateaus just meters above. As the alpacas settle close to the cliff base, they benefit directly from this geological heat bank. The stone walls gently release their stored warmth into the quiet air, bathing the resting animals in a soft, continuous thermal embrace. It is a masterclass in natural thermoregulation, relying on the Earth's own mass to buffer against the extremes of high-altitude weather. Surrounded by these sun-baked stones, the herd finds complete relief. There is no need for frantic movement or energy-costly shivering. The dark rock absorbs the cold and gives back comfort, turning a harsh winter afternoon into a haven of rest. The distant shifting stones occasionally echo through the canyon, settling as the ground slowly adjusts to the gentle warmth, while the animals lean gently against the reassuring shelter of the heated earth. Settling deep into the fine, sun-warmed dust of the gorge floor, the mature adult prepares for a long afternoon of stillness. Every movement is deliberate and unhurried, designed to expend the absolute minimum of energy. As the heavy body lowers into sternal recumbency, tucking the legs neatly beneath the chest, the animal begins to adjust its coat. With a gentle, rolling shudder of skin and muscle, the dense winter fleece fluffs outward, expanding to its maximum volume. This remarkable coat is a masterpiece of seasonal adaptation, uniquely evolved for the biting cold of high-altitude ecosystems. Unlike the hollow-haired coats of other mountain ungulates, the alpaca's fleece is composed of millions of ultra-fine, highly crimped fibers. These microscopic waves and bends create an intricate labyrinth of tiny air pockets across the entire body. As the animal rests, body heat warms the air trapped within these spaces, while the outer layer of fleece forms a resilient barrier against any wandering drafts. Natural thermal regulation here relies entirely on this trapped atmospheric layer. The fibers themselves possess low thermal conductivity, meaning they stubbornly refuse to let internal warmth escape into the freezing gorge air. Protected by this thick, insulating blanket, the adult alpaca feels only a pleasant, enveloping warmth. The soft rustling of shifting fleece fibers gradually fades as the coat settles into its final, most efficient configuration. The biting chill of the winter afternoon is completely forgotten, locked safely away on the other side of a microscopic sea of calm air, leaving the resting animal adrift in a profound, heavy-lidded peace. High in the thin, unforgiving air of the Andes, survival is a delicate exercise in biological accounting. Winter offers little by way of nourishment, turning every calorie into precious currency. To outlast the season, the alpaca shifts into a profound state of metabolic economy, drastically reducing its daily energy expenditure. The herd around the mature adult follows suit, dissolving into statuesque blurs of stillness against the gray stone. Weight rests evenly and securely on padded feet, tucked completely out of sight beneath the heavy expanse of the chest and belly. This specific posture, sternal recumbency, eliminates any need for muscular tension. Without a single wasted movement, the skeleton bears the full burden of gravity, allowing the muscles to slacken and cool just enough to conserve vital resources. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens into a measured cadence, and the internal engine idles at a gentle, sustainable hum. While the surrounding landscape remains frozen and barren, the inner world of the resting animal ticks along with quiet efficiency. Digestion continues in slow motion, fueled by the slow breakdown of coarse grasses gathered earlier in the day. There is no urgency here, no restless shifting or anxious scanning of the horizon. In this sheltered gorge, surrounded by trusted kin, the sheer act of doing nothing becomes the ultimate evolutionary strategy. As the pale winter sun begins its slow descent behind the jagged peaks, casting long, purple shadows across the canyon floor, the sleeping herd merges seamlessly with the enduring tranquility of the mountains, wrapped in a deep, undisturbed cocoon of peace. Outwardly, the herd is a collection of statues carved from earth and stone, yet beneath this serene surface, a tireless biological engine hums along. A rhythmic, side-to-side motion of the jaw breaks the stillness. The mature adult's lower teeth grind steadily against the upper dental pad, methodically rechewing the fibrous winter forage swallowed hours earlier. This gentle rumination is the key to surviving the Andean freeze. As the cud returns from the first chambers of the specialized three-compartment stomach, it is broken down further by specialized microbial fermentation. This intricate digestive process does more than just extract the last few microscopic nutrients from brittle, frost-cured grasses. It acts as an internal furnace. The ceaseless microbial activity within the gut generates a continuous, low-grade metabolic heat, radiating outward from the animal's core to warm the blood circulating just beneath the skin. It is a remarkably efficient cycle. Digestion fuels warmth, and warmth preserves the energy needed to digest. The soft, wet sound of chewing blends seamlessly with the muffled sigh of the winter wind passing safely overhead. There is no rush, no strain, only the slow, rhythmic cadence of life persisting in the cold. In the quiet sanctuary of the gorge, this internal alchemy transforms harsh mountain scrub into vital thermal energy, keeping the winter chill gently at bay as the peaceful afternoon slowly yields to dusk. As the afternoon gently wears on, the angle of the winter sun begins to shift, painting the weathered stone of the gorge in muted amber and gold. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, long and pale blue shadows stretch outward across the canyon floor. These cool shadows creep forward, softly washing over the resting herd. They drape over the fluffed, insulating coats of the mature alpacas, offering a quiet signal that the diurnal cycle is turning toward the quiet hours of evening. The fading light filters through the dense canopy of fiber, casting a peaceful twilight glow over the landscape. Within the sheltered microclimate, the temperature drops just a fraction, yet the herd remains entirely undisturbed. Their thick fleeces continue to trap a stationary layer of air against their skin, retaining every precious calorie of metabolic heat generated throughout the day. Surrounded by the towering, protective walls of stone, the alpacas rest in a state of profound and restorative stillness. The muffled wind overhead becomes nothing more than a distant, soothing hum, fading away into the deepening quiet. Even the rhythmic motion of rumination begins to slow, replaced by deep, slow breaths that rise and fall in unison with the gathering dusk. There is a deep, ancient wisdom in this conservation, a seamless blending of physiology and instinct that allows life to endure the harshest mountain winter without effort. As the last sliver of direct sunlight slips beyond the highest crag, the gorge settles into a blanket of blue twilight. The resting figures merge gently with the gathering shadows, wrapped in warmth, safety, and absolute peace. High upon the Andean ridge, the brief winter day surrenders to the encroaching evening, marked by a sudden, breathtaking shift in light. As the sun dips below the jagged western horizon, its final rays strike the heavy snowpack, igniting the frozen crests in brilliant waves of rose, amber, and molten gold. This luminous phenomenon, known locally as alpenglow, floods the high-altitude landscape with a warm, deceptive radiance that contrasts sharply with the reality of the air, With the fading of solar radiation, an immediate drop in ambient temperature takes hold. In these thin, dry atmospheric conditions, heat radiates rapidly back into space, plunging the thermometer downward within minutes. This abrupt thermal transition triggers vital physiological responses in high mountain mammals, who rely on specialized adaptations to maintain homeostasis. Dense, hollow guard hairs and fine, insulating underfleece trap a thick layer of warm air close to the skin, creating a natural thermal barrier against the biting alpine chill. As the amber glow softens into lavender along the towering peaks, the mountain wind begins to quiet, replaced by a stillness that settles heavily over the slopes. Every contour of the snow-draped ridge stands out in sharp relief before dissolving into the violet shadows of twilight. In this serene and fading light, the high altitude grows profoundly peaceful, holding its breath as the long winter night prepares to descend. Against the backdrop of fading lavender skies, the senior alpaca navigates the frost-crusted ground with measured, deliberate steps. Every movement is a masterclass in energy conservation, honed by countless seasons upon these windswept heights. Senescence in mammals often brings a gradual reduction in physical vigor, yet this experienced male counters the natural decline of aging joints through absolute efficiency. He wastes no motion. Each placement of his cushioned, two-toed foot is precise, bypassing slippery ice patches and selecting the most secure contours of the familiar ridge. His deep familiarity with the landscape is woven into his very muscle memory. Decades of navigating this unforgiving terrain have taught him how to pace his respiration, matching the rhythm of his strides to the thin, oxygen-poor mountain air. As he walks, the heavy fibers of his winter fleece rustle softly against the frozen bunch grasses, a gentle friction that warms the outer layers of his dense coat. Beneath this protective shield, his metabolism operates in a steady, conserved state, prioritizing core warmth while avoiding any unnecessary exertion as the cold deepens. The fading mountain wind carries the faint, dry crunch of distant falling ice from a nearby crevasse, but the senior alpaca remains unstartled, moving at his own unhurried pace. He is entirely attuned to the subtle shifts of the darkening slope, his amber-brown eyes reading the contours of the snow with effortless clarity. Every step reflects a quiet resilience, a graceful adaptation to the twilight hour that brings him steadily closer to the waiting warmth of the herd. As the final brushstrokes of amber sunlight lift from the higher crags, the scattered group of camelids instinctively responds to the dropping barometer. Individual alpacas drift closer together on the wind-scoured ridge, their movements slow and synchronized as they converge into a tight, protective cluster. This instinctive herd cohesion serves a vital physiological purpose against the impending alpine freeze. By pressing shoulder to shoulder, the animals minimize their individual surface area exposed to the chilling air, creating a microclimate of shared body heat. The senior alpaca approaches the familiar gathering, gliding smoothly into the heart of the formation where the ambient temperature is naturally buffered by the collective mass of his companions. Within this living shelter, silent solidarity replaces active communication. They do not need to call out. The simple, steady press of warm fleece against warm fleece communicates absolute security. Specialized counter-current heat exchange systems in their limbs and the exceptional insulating properties of their dense coats work in tandem with this communal huddling, optimizing thermoregulation as the mercury plummets. Standing shoulder to shoulder with the herd he has known for seasons, the aging male feels a profound sense of physiological relief. The frantic edge of daylight gives way to the deep, restorative calm of twilight, binding the animals together in quiet endurance against the mountain night. As twilight settles over the high ridge, a delicate acoustic landscape begins to unfold within the huddling herd. Low, resonant vibrations ripple softly through the gathered camelids, transforming into a gentle, rhythmic humming that hangs suspended in the freezing air. This subtle vocalization, produced by a gentle expulsion of air through the nose, serves as an ancient social glue for the group. For the aging alpaca, enveloped by the warm press of his companions, these soft sounds carry a profound biological and psychological significance. The acoustic frequencies, ranging between low octaves, act as acoustic beacons of safety, effectively lowering cortisol levels and signaling to every nervous system within the cluster that the environment is secure. This auditory exchange regulates group circadian rhythms, easing the transition from the alertness of the day into the restorative stillness of the mountain night. As one animal hums, another responds in kind, creating an undulating wave of harmonic reassurance that gently vibrates through the dense fleeces. It is a biological dialogue of presence, confirming that the herd remains intact, vigilant, and unified against the encroaching cold. The sound is barely perceptible over the fading mountain wind, a whisper of breath that resonates deep within the chest cavities of the listeners. In this sanctuary of sound and touch, the senior alpaca lets his heavy eyelids droop, enveloped in the comforting resonance of a community that shares his long journey through the high peaks. With the final amber embers fading from the snowy peaks, the resting sequence begins across the clustered herd. Bending first at the carpal joints, the aging alpaca lowers his forequarters gently toward the frozen earth, folding his slender legs neatly beneath his deep chest. His heavy, insulating fleece drapes downward like a thick woolen quilt, completely sealing his body against the biting chill radiating upward from the alpine soil. This specialized resting posture, known scientifically as sternal recumbency, is a masterclass in mammalian energy conservation. By tucking all four limbs entirely beneath the barrel of the body, the senior camelid drastically reduces his exposed surface area, minimizing convective heat loss to the sub-zero atmosphere. His densely packed undercoat traps millions of microscopic air pockets, creating a personal thermal barrier that functions with remarkable efficiency. Gradually, every member of the group adopts the same quiet geometry, settling into a synchronized pattern of motionless repose. The aging alpaca shifts his weight just slightly until he finds a balanced, comfortable alignment that eases the gentle stiffness in his aging joints. His slow, rhythmic breathing deepens, matching the steady cadence of the companions resting snugly against his flanks. Far above, the first brilliant stars pierce the indigo sky, looking down on the silent ridge where resilience, warmth, and community have triumphed over the winter elements. Surrounded by the shared body heat of the herd, the old alpaca closes his eyes, drifting completely into the deep, restorative quiet of the high mountain night. High above the sleeping ridge, the brilliant alpenglow dissolves completely into a vast, velvet expanse of indigo. The thin mountain air grows crisp and still, its temperature plunging rapidly as the earth radiates its day's accumulated warmth outward into space. Yet within the huddled circle of camelids, a profound microclimate persists. The shared thermal radiation of their bodies creates a gentle pocket of warmth, a testament to the evolutionary elegance of herd cohesion in extreme environments. The aging alpaca rests quietly at the heart of this warm expanse, his internal circadian rhythms guiding him gracefully into the restorative phase of the nocturnal cycle. His heart rate slows to a steady, measured rhythm, and his metabolic rate drops into a state of quiet conservation, perfectly tailored to survive the harsh winter hours ahead. Above the silent peaks, the constellations wheel slowly across the southern sky, keeping watch over the high Puna. Distant shadows blur into peaceful obscurity, and the fading mountain wind leaves behind a profound, velvety hush. Breathing as one with his companions, the senior alpaca drifts deeper into sleep, held safely within the timeless embrace of the mountain night. High above the timberline, the winter night claims the Andean valley in a slow, velvet sweep. As the last amber traces of twilight dissolve behind jagged granite peaks, total darkness settles over the snow-dusted earth. In the thin, unpolluted atmosphere of the high plateau, 4,000 meters above the distant sea, the stars awaken with diamond clarity, burning in cold, steady constellations across the vast expanse of the southern sky. A pale, ethereal luminescence spills downward from the cosmos, washing over the motionless landscape of rock, ice, and sparse puna grass. The temperature plummets rapidly, a sharp nocturnal drop born of high altitude and low humidity. But the valley floor lies cradled in a pocket of profound quiet. The hollow winter breeze, which whipped across the ridges during the afternoon hours, softens now into a gentle, meandering whisper that barely ripples the fine-tipped needles of dwarf shrubs. Underneath this expansive canopy of stars, the world holds its breath. There is no haste here, only the grand, slow rhythm of the mountains. The ice of a distant glacier settles with a deep, echoing crack, a sound carrying for miles through the frozen air before dissolving entirely into the stillness. Every contour of the valley, every snow-drifted hollow and frost-crowned boulder, is bathed in silver shadow. In this sanctuary of absolute peace, the ancient peaks stand eternal and unmoving, guarding the quiet night with timeless grace. Within this amphitheater of frozen stone, the alpaca herd finds its sanctuary. Moving as a single, cohesive unit of survival, the family group settles into the deepest hollow of the valley. Here, instinctive camelid behavior takes over. Younger adults form an outer perimeter while the most vulnerable members are gently guided inward. The elderly alpaca, its joints stiffened by years of navigating steep ski slopes and enduring countless alpine blizzards, is welcomed into the absolute center of the cluster. Surrounded by the dense, insulating layers of 20 soft fleeces, the heat of the collective body mass creates a localized microclimate. This natural thermoregulation shields the aging animal against the plunging ambient temperatures, maintaining a steady, comforting warmth. One by one, the herd members tuck their slender legs beneath their bodies, lowering their heavy chests to the earth in a synchronized motion that speaks of deep familial trust. The matriarch exhales a long, warm sigh, releasing a wisp of vapor into the starlit air. A low, rhythmic humming vibrates through the packed earth, a low-frequency vocalization that reassures every member of the group and deters any distant predators roaming the ridgelines. Nestled snugly between the soft flank of a protective daughter and the broad shoulder of a trusted companion, the elderly alpaca sinks deeper into the wool. The sharp edge of the mountain chill fades entirely, replaced by the reassuring weight of breathing bodies and the profound security of the herd. At the center of the resting cluster, time itself seems to slow. The elderly alpaca settles deeper into the earth, its physiology shifting into a state of profound conservation. With every passing minute, the metabolic rate gently dips, an adaptive response refined over millennia of high-altitude evolution. Thick-walled red blood cells, rich in hemoglobin from a lifetime spent breathing thin mountain air, carry their final quiet currents through a body that has known every stone and seasonal shift of this range. The breathing is remarkably unhurried, in and out. Each inhalation draws in the crystal-pure, freezing air of the altiplano, while each exhalation creates a tiny, fading wisp of mist that dances briefly in the starlight before dissolving into the vast, silent night. This delicate plume of vapor mirrors the quiet, measured passage of time in the high Andes, gentle, fleeting, and perfectly attuned to the elements. There is no struggle here, only a deep, biological surrender to the cold. The heavy coat of dense fleece, built up through years of summer suns and winter gales, traps a final reservoir of warmth against the skin. With every slow pulsation of the chest, the alpaca's heartbeat matches the low-frequency hum vibrating through the frozen soil from the resting herd. It is a shared pulse, steady and enduring, connecting the individual life to the broader rhythm of the ecosystem. The air brushes softly across the valley floor, carrying the faint, ancient scent of ice and native ichu grass, cradling the plateau in an endless, quiet stillness. The quiet air of the high altitude carries the ghosts of bygone seasons. In the stillness of the winter night, sensory memories of the plateau awaken. The mind of the elderly camelid drifts back to the brilliant green of spring meadows, where life began beneath the intense equatorial sun. Those early days of fragile instability, when trembling limbs first learned to navigate the rocky slopes, gradually gave way to the vibrant bounty of summer bofdales. In those lush, high-altitude wetlands, rich cushion plants fueled the growth of dense bone and heavy muscle, establishing the foundations of a resilient constitution designed to withstand the extremes of altitude. As the years advanced, the cycles repeated with rhythmic predictability. Autumn brought crisp silver frosts and the rich amber hues of native ichu grass, testing the animal's thermoregulatory reserves as coats thickened for the impending alpine freeze. Every seasonal transition required precise physiological adaptations, from shifting fat distributions to hormonal cues that governed winter survival. Now, resting in the deep sanctuary of the herd, the full arc of senescence settles into place. The accumulated wisdom of a long life is written in the graying fibers around the muzzle and the quiet dignity of the lowered head. This is the natural completion of an evolutionary journey finely tuned to the South American Cordillera. The transition from newborn cria to venerated elder mirrors the timeless rhythms of the peaks themselves. No energy is wasted. Every breath acknowledges the unbroken lineage of survival, endurance, and quiet belonging that defines existence at the roof of the world. The rhythmic hum of the surrounding herd creates a soothing, low-frequency resonance that gently anchors the winter air. At the center of this protective living circle, the elderly alpaca's heartbeat begins to slow, matching the unhurried cadence of the mountain world. Through natural senescence, the metabolic furnace that once burned so brightly against the bitter alpine frost now dials down with exquisite grace. Vasodilation and blood flow, long regulated by specialized camelid physiology to conserve core warmth in extreme cold, soften into a profound stillness. Each inhalation is shallower than the last, yet entirely effortless, drawing in the crisp, thin air of the high Cordillera for one final, peaceful moment. There is no struggle here, only the complete surrender of energy back to the earth. The heavy fleece, built through countless seasons to repel snow and fierce winds, rests heavily and comfortably against the frozen soil. In this final transition, the animal's biological cycle integrates seamlessly into the broader ecosystem. The nutrients that sustained a long, resilient life will soon return to the alpine meadow, enriching the very soil where future generations of ichu grass and cushion plants will grow. Underneath the vast, star-studded dome of the southern sky, the boundaries between the individual and the landscape blur. The distant, hollow sigh of the winter breeze over the glacial ridges sounds almost like a lullaby, carrying the spirit of the elder into the timeless fabric of the Andes. The herd remains settled and undisturbed, breathing as one unified organism in the dark, cradled by the eternal mountains that watch over the high plateau until dawn. High above the sheltered valley, the ancient constellations of the southern hemisphere wheel slowly through the thin, diamond-clear air. The Southern Cross tilts toward the jagged horizon, casting a pale, ethereal silver luminescence over the snow-draped shoulders of the Andean peaks. In this vast, celestial theater, time loses its sharp edges, stretching into a profound and lasting stillness that belongs to the high-altitude wilderness alone. Down in the hollow, the herd remains safely gathered in the dark. The soft, rhythmic hums of family members blend seamlessly with the faint, steady whistle of the hollow winter breeze sliding across the rocky crags, protected by thick layers of thermal fleece and the collective body heat of the sleeping circle. the younger alpacas rest securely. Their slow, deep respirations maintain the delicate balance of camelid thermal regulation, a timeless biological adaptation forged by millennia of harsh winters and thin mountain oxygen. Farther up the glacier, a distant, muffled crack echoes through the frozen night as ancient ice shifts beneath the starlight. The sound is swallowed almost instantly by the heavy silence of the Cordillera. The landscape absorbs it all, holding the memory of every storm, every grazing season, and every heartbeat within its rocky embrace. The elderly alpaca rests quietly at the center of the unmoving herd, now entirely woven into the eternal rhythm of the plateau. The circle of life closes gently, a natural completion as quiet as the falling snow. Under the watchful gaze of the timeless stars, the mountains stand guard over the sleeping valley, holding the high world in a state of absolute, enduring peace until the first pale light of dawn touches the eastern snows.